isn't it okay to get lost in Las Vegas?
Oh,
I
yeah.
was thinking about this the other day. You know, my son Jesse was out in Las Vegas when we had that 70th birthday celebration, but actually was not in attendance at the big, gathering when everybody got together for the birthday dinner. Why? Because he was playing poker at a nearby casino, and I was thinking, I really respect that. I do. Some people that might have caused some kind of very, just almost abrasive kind of rift in the family. But with me, and everybody accepted it. Oh yeah, he's in a poker tournament, no problem, man. Let's hope he wins, which is great.
The time. Wake up with Defo, joined by Lubie. Welcome to the Defo Show.
And a very pleasant good morning, everybody. Great to be with you here on the Defo Show. Jeff DeForest and one Mike Lubitz. If you see a little bit of a concerned look on Lubie's face, it's because, this would be the thing, right? The last thing you want is computer crap on a day like this. When you have gone ahead and I would say if there was an Oscar for show production today on any internet site, any YouTube channel, you would have to be a candidate for the number one spot because we're going to talk to both Dusty May, now a hot commodity there, head coach at FAU. They go against Tennessee on Thursday as 5.5-point dogs, having made it to the Sweet 16. FAU, that would have to be the first time in FAU history they were ever in the Sweet 16. I don't even know.
Yeah.
Do we need to look that up? They've probably only been in a tournament like 2 times.
This is their second time in the tournament. Their round of 64 win was their first win in their tournament history.
Wow. So quite a significant accomplishment. And Dusty May going to make time to be with us later on this morning, about 8:05, I believe. And then Lubie on top of that. I'm overwhelmingly, you couldn't be any more grateful for the fact that Jim Larranaga recognizes the show and is always available to us whenever you put in the request. That's not one of those things, like when you were calling, saying, to interview somebody from the Marlins when we were the flagship station. And all you ever got was a message machine from the PR department there. If you're calling about an interview of a player, we are not granting any interviews at this time. Miggy Rojas will be available at the Fan Drive, and that's taking place Wednesday at the Shell Station around the block here from Lone Shark Park. It's like, what the fuck? What do we have to do to get a guy on the show, man? Larranaga, though, Lubie calls, and I guess he likes talking basketball with us. Maybe it's because I played ball with Eddie Malloy, his arch rival. You have to admit, if you were going to bring up an obscure reference to a coach, even I was shocked that he knew who the hell this guy was.
I don't mind you doing it. You just got to get new names. There's got to be new old school guys.
There are. I'm not necessarily going to go in that direction today because there's just too much else to talk about here, including, the dissection of those 2 games. You talk about a tale of 2 cities. 2 completely different efforts by the Hurricane basketball team. And yet, you know what the weird thing is about that Drake game is that they won by 7.
Yeah,
that was crazy. It wasn't like they eked out a 1-point win there at the end.
No, at the end.
With a lucky break, where the ball hits the top of the backboard, somehow goes through. And it's like, yeah, all right, that's the way I planned it. But they did win by 7 on a horrendous shooting night. That was about, literally, it was Boulder City, Colorado, was it not?
Yes.
You're talking about like you were waiting for the guy to put the ball by his ear and just shot put it up there. I keep making that reference. It's a mistaken reference there to Gert Bonk, who I thought was a shot putter, a German shot putter from the Olympics in the 50s and 60s. Gert Bonk. I just love the name because he looked like a guy that would be named Gert Bonk. Looked like he looked like that nondescript wrestler, Gert Bonk. Take a look at this guy if you can find him on the internet. Gert Bonk. He might have medaled in like 4 straight Olympic Games or something for East Germany. And, he still had the syringe in his ass from the steroids that they were juicing these guys with long before we ever heard about Jose Canseco and all of that craziness. What was the craziest thing you remember about Canseco? The ball hitting him on the head and then going out of the park, or that car chase with the wife? That, like they were driving to the Everglades at 1,000 miles an hour on I-75 there. That was insane, right? I'd been in a couple of those. That's how insane my second marriage was. Car chase, right? Where you're weaving in and out of traffic trying to get away from this chick. God, just leave me alone. That's all I want. All right, so it's going to be a lot of fun today because we'll talk to both Dusty May, Jim Larranaga, Grant Long going to join us as well with the NBA coming down to the wire of the regular season. Last night, and I talked about this on our Defo on 5, that's on 5 Reasons Sports Network, a new thing that we do, and Lubie's on top of this thing now, and it seems like it's getting out there early in the morning. Kind of like you look for that morning news delivery. That's what
Yeah,
we
yeah.
are, your morning briefing.
It's a briefing. It's a
Yes.
brief defo, which I didn't think was possible. So far, you're somewhat staying to it.
No, it hasn't really been smooth for me. I have to admit, I have to work on this thing quite a bit. I really do. I mean, I've been doing this for a long time. I mean, it is a profession, right? So you want to be professional about what you do. And I've always said that to you, Lou. The highest compliment I felt I ever got for anything I've ever done was I was doing a boxing match, and I was working. You tend to work with new crews all the time. This was a lot of freelance stuff, even though it was network contracted. It was Prime Network at the time. Was I guess what Bally's had as its overseer. Now Bally Sports Florida. It was Sunshine Network at the time. Then it became Sun Sports or whatever. And they had a national network, Prime Network, which linked them all together, all of these regional cable systems. And you were always working with new crews. And I remember a guy was asking about me. And the producer said, "Well, you know what? I could tell you this. You know, he'd called like a guy I'd worked with before, and the guy's recommendation was a solid pro, and that's what you want to be known as, right? You want to be known as somebody that's not going to butcher the job, especially on these live TV shows where a lot of stuff goes wrong. It just really does. So you have to be able to kind of work your way through it. But I always thought that was about as high a compliment as you could get to be deemed a solid pro.
Yeah.
And yeah, no, it's definitely the way to go. All right. Speaking of being professional, but in our professional responsibility to be fair to everybody, I watched the women's basketball game last night. All right. I haven't gotten to be a solid pro on that Defo on 5 yet, though. That's where I was going.
You'll
with all
get
that.
there.
Yeah.
You'll get there. It's fine. Check it out.
It doesn't feel right yet. It just doesn't feel right.
And it's
I
on
have
the
an
YouTube.
idea, and it's not happening exactly the way we want it to. But we're working on it. Plus, it's real early in the morning when we're doing that thing.
It's on
Right?
the YouTube. It's like a synopsis of what we end up doing. What's interesting is it's beforehand.
Yeah.
And it still is a synopsis.
Yes.
We end up doing. It's like
Well, I mean, the storylines are pretty much there. Jim Manich used to make fun of me because he would come in when Mad Dog Manich, may he rest in peace. And when I first started working with him, I have to say he was a complete stiff. Good guy, he was the same man that he was, but actually, I think the work kind of lightened him up. Also, he found himself a little bit through doing this, which is one of the nice things about getting paid just to be yourself, right, Lubie? I mean, if you ever start making gobs of money doing this, or enough to actually justify being able to wake up in the morning and look at your wife and say, "I hope you have a good day at work, sweetheart," because we're going to need every dime you're making while I'm in this business on my way up. But how great is it to just get paid to be yourself? It really is it's an amazing phenomenon. So you're always kind of happy to be doing this, and that's why it's also weird that people are so negative about sports, fans, announcers. And we always thought this, although it happens to be the opposite is true. That negativity sells. That was a general theory of sports talk radio forever. Right? I mean, if Skip Bayless isn't whining about something, here's a guy goes on the air and says, "Well, LeBron's not that great of a player." What on earth? There's no peyote button that you could swallow that would possibly lead you to the conclusion that LeBron James is not a good basketball player.
He's great.
To go ahead and proliferate that position for years. I mean, you have to be criminally insane or trying to make America great again, I guess. But why would it be that you would always be negative, and like every conversation is negative? This is the thing, and I feel like singing about it because it's such a great time of the year. If ever I could leave you, talking about sports.
Yes. Yeah.
How could it be in springtime, Lubie?
Right now it's spring. We just got to spring.
I mean, this is amazing, and we get a little taste of it here locally. Actually, a big taste of it, because I thought the first 4 days of the NCAA basketball tournament were magnificent.
It's my favorite 4 days in sports. Like the Super Bowl,
It was great.
the World Series is great. The NBA fine. Like all these sports are great. It's like college football on crack.
Really was it was amazing because it was game after game, and then you're flicking back and forth, and you're thinking, "Where the hell? What channel is True TV? What are you talking about?"
That's the only good thing. I have the Hulu thing I have. I don't really look for channels anymore.
Yeah,
It just pops up with what's on.
yeah. I mean, yeah.
Like
I'm exaggerating my
oh, you're
ineptitude
not
of finding
actually.
shows,
Oh,
but
the professor couldn't find the professor last week. Did the same thing you were doing. Like the
yeah,
professor was looking for a game and he forgot about fucking because you don't watch True TV year round. It's just like
I
impractical.
didn't even know I had it.
And this is the only time you watch it. So if you're looking for channels, it's a pain in the ass. Like it's really hard to find. I do that. I used to do that every year. I would miss at least 2 of the Thursday games because it took me half the Thursday to figure out where the fuck True TV is.
Yeah.
And then I got caught up.
Yeah, I mean, I have the voice thing, so I mean, you
Yeah,
can
you
just
just
say,
this
you
game.
know, college basketball, and it pops up, which is good, and it was great. And then last night, I mean, I kind of got shamed into watching a little bit of the Indiana Miami women's basketball game.
I watched 1 second. It's like I'm in pure defiance of Jim Cerny at this point.
Am I being Svengalian also? I mean, look what he did to
100%.
Mayo, for God's sake.
Look, he's done it to me.
This man just goes out there and destroys people's lives and psyches. But it was great, you know. And I was telling a story on Defo and 5. It's true. I used to cringe, and I'm ashamed to admit this because she was a very nice lady. And I've referenced, is she still alive? I would say yes. Fern Labate, former women's basketball coach, and she was with the program forever. But the program really wasn't. It wasn't bad. It actually was very favorable in comparison to the men's program, which was almost pure garbage at that point. It was a disgrace what the men were doing. They went 0-17 in the Big East during games that I was covering, 92. I want to say this was circa 92, 93, something in there. And there were great teams in the Big East, and everybody thought it was just a huge blunder to put the Hurricanes in the Big East and have them compete like that. And then later on, when they moved to the ACC, you thought, wow, that's ringing death for the Hurricane basketball program, no? They'd already had a couple of little minor accomplishments, I guess, which were so magnificent by comparison to their previous results as a basketball entity. Once they resumed, think about this. How long did they not have basketball
She's 75
at the University of Miami? And she's going strong, right? Fern Labate?
She's alive and well. Yeah. She also coaches Seton Hall, which is a big time.
She's coaching still?
No. She did coach at some point at Seton Hall. I don't think at 75 she's still coaching.
Hey, look, Rick just got a job. Our man Patino, he's 70.
I know.
Whoever colors his hair is doing a dynamite job. No, that can't be his real color. You don't have jet black hair at 70, Lubie.
No, obviously not. We've seen gray or white patches. So yeah, no, that's not.
I mean, shouldn't he look a little more like Polly Walnuts, you know, with the white hair on the side there, because you couldn't color it all.
That's
but I had a guy, Friday when we were out at the track with Mike Mayo for the Lunchbox show. So I go to I'm on a wall of self-betting machines, and I'm punching tickets. I see a guy that I know, and he said, hey, Defo, were you painting your house gray today? And I was like, eh. And then I realized he was talking about my hair.
Oh, God. Well, you've accepted it. You've gone all in. I appreciate it.
I'm happy about it. Yeah, I'm amazed I ever bothered with any of that hair coloring. That was a huge mistake. It really was. People, just be natural. Be yourself.
The problem is it's good eventually, but like the next day, it's still like it's a stronger color than it eventually will be. So you can tell when someone's coloring their hair and they don't
it turns to a sickly brown.
Just
like a weird reddish brown. Yeah.
I don't care.
After a while.
It is what it is. Like women do all this crap to their hair and no one says anything. So I don't mind if you do it.
But for some reason, it works with women's hair. It does not work with guys. It doesn't work well. Everybody knows that you're coloring your hair.
Well, women spend lots of money and lots of time and do research. Men don't do any of that. They're like, do it.
You think they asked Patino about that when they were, I mean, they didn't exactly. I would imagine he interviewed them, the St. John's people, for the job. Sounds that way because he pretty much, I mean, I'm reading some quotes in the paper today from Patino, and they're euphoric in New York City that Patino's coming back there. So obviously they're willing to overlook all potential indiscretions that were committed by Patino or that he was compliant in over his many years. I mean, he's been coaching since the mid-'70s or something. So I've been in the game a long, long time, but they are absolutely euphoric. But I don't think that came up, did it? With
Oh, they're not worried about his hair.
Father Leo, whoever runs St. John's, is the president of St. John's. Some guy named Shanley, I believe, and they couldn't be any happier, right? They gave and Mike Rapoli out of horse racing, the guy that was behind Vitamin Water, sold it for like $1 billion. Do you ever see a bottle of Vitamin Water anywhere anymore? I don't.
I was gonna say Vitamin Water, I think still exists, but like
This
it's
guy
not what it
cashed in big.
was.
I mean, isn't that great? Buy low, sell high.
Is that what happened? They bought out 50 Cent and got rid of it? Is that what they did?
Coca-Cola, I think, came in and
Skittles.
bought out Vitamin Water, and Mike Rapoli became like a billionaire, and then he got into horse racing, and so he's very close with Patino because they may have even partnered in a couple of high-end horses. So Patino owns some very, very high-caliber racehorses. He tells a story, and it's hysterical about how he turned a large fortune into a small one by getting into the horse racing business. And he was talking about some of the stiffs that he had, but he had some really, really good horses, and had potential Kentucky Derby horses. So he's close with Rapoli, who's already vowed, Lubie, in name, image, and likeness. I mean, the sky is going to be the limit with this guy. St. John's, which never had, I don't think, this kind of booster steam, is now going to have Mike Rapoli very interested in the basketball program.
It's in the middle of New York City, which is the biggest market in the country and one of the top 3 to 5 biggest markets in the world. There's plenty of money there, and you have to think a lot of people came out of St. John's and did really well. And when it was at its best, St. John's hung around every year, so there's no reason why St. John's shouldn't be a friggin' monster. I mean, it should be a monster lying in wait, like.
With Patino, with Rapoli's cash and free reign, transfer portal.
They should be able to do whatever the fuck it should be. And the conference they're in sucks, so they should be able to dominate. Like they should be able to dominate.
Patino says, this isn't like a 5-year plan. It's like a 3-month plan. We're going to be good next year.
Oh, no, he's not waiting. Yeah, he's not messing around.
I think he's in Latvia today recruiting a 7'5" guy.
And he's actually learned a thing or two being in Greece and being
yeah, for sure, man. He's probably got Ronnie Cycli's grandson.
Hey, you can win like this.
Play for him. All right, so let's get into this, women's Hurricanes game last night. It was great. And I go back, to 92, which was the last time that the Hurricane women were in the Sweet 16. It's amazing. It's 31 years ago, and it's amazing, to think back that was actually 31 years ago in my lifetime. And we used to dread the Fern Labonte interview at halftime. I was talking about this earlier this morning. I don't know. I mean, it was so boring. I mean, you've conducted interviews. We've had, we rarely get a stiff on this show. Rarely. I mean, I would say it's maybe been 1 in 100. Usually comedians were the worst interviews.
I was going to say there's
comedians.
We usually remember all of them, and that's because it's rare. Like I can remember our top 5, and I think all 5. I think 3 were comedians, and we had the
Tillman Fertitta. I mean, that was a bad interview.
Oh, that was you. I didn't think that was as bad as you thought it was. It got awkward, and you don't like awkward. I thought it actually ended up being okay. We finished it at least. Like the one with the tires. Was she an Earnhardt? What?
Oh yeah, that was horrendous. Yeah.
Where
like Dale Earnhardt's cousin or something?
It was Unser. It might have been the Unsers because it was.
It was one of the Unsers. Yeah, it was like Geraldine Unser or something.
And it was like the granddaughter, and she kept bringing the tires, and you were like even cracking jokes. Well, what about the tire? Like,
I think it was Andy that said he went out and slashed like
Michelin
100 tires that day that had the same brand on there.
We get it.
That's all I heard about. That was probably the worst interview we ever did on the air. There's no question about it.
Eddie Griffin, because I was really looking forward to Eddie Griffin.
Yeah,
very comedian, but it was the morning, and when comedians in the morning, it's hit or miss.
Musicians, can be the same thing.
Yeah, I was gonna say, but we were lucky that.
Butch Trucks. What was kind of a weird interview. Remember the drummer from the Allman Brothers?
He was a bit out there, and the other comedian, God rest his soul, Charlie Murphy. Charlie Murphy was in studio, and he was a really nice guy, but it was the fucking morning.
Julian saying Jeter, which At least Jeter answers questions. I mean, it may not be the most fascinating stuff you've ever heard. You kind of know what he's going to say. Yeah, he was pretty cool. The funniest thing about that interview was that the people were screaming at us that we were talking about the Yankees.
Yeah, Jeter was actually good. I actually enjoyed the interview. It was people stressing out about the Jeter interview.
They were so nervous at the radio station that this. I mean, how frayed could the relationship have been? They just signed the team. Well, I mean, they had the Marlins on the radio station. This was 940 Wins where we were working for about 11 and a half years. And we were independent shooters in there, and I don't think I don't know why. I mean, the people in management just I guess Brian Olsen was okay. He got it.
Yes.
And who followed him as the general manager? A guy that looked like Sean McManus.
This guy Rob, I don't remember his name to be brutally
Yeah,
honest.
he was all right. I mean, but he wasn't as personable as Olsen, who we knew was a degenerate gambler,
Yes.
which made him have a special affinity for all of the things that we were talking about on the show. In fact, he would come up to us. That was the only comments we ever got about the show. Was once in a blue moon, I'd see the GM in the parking lot. This guy rarely, ventured down to our end of the building. And we didn't have any, big reason to be dealing with him either. I mean, it was fine. Just let us alone. I always told you that, Lubie. You don't want them to even know that you work there.
I don't think that's exactly true, but I get it. In our way, it only was bad when they wanted to talk to us.
But every now and then, I'd see Olsen in the parking lot. As I was coming in, he was going out, and I guess it was actually usually the other way around
Yeah,
since we were there so early.
it's coming.
And he would say, "Hey, do you remember who Mark Lawrence picked?"
Oh, he wanted Lawrence.
Yeah.
I didn't realize he was into. Wow. Okay, if you're asking for Lawrence,
Yeah, he was like a trend handicapper. It turned out.
that's great.
So I thought, okay, well, we're safe here for a little while anyway. Even though the program director thought that we were speaking, in some kind of language from another planet. Where are you going to be talking about gambling again today?
Yes, every day. There's literally
Now they're begging to find somebody who could talk about gambling. That's the beauty of it.
entire networks that
Yeah.
all they talk about is gambling. Yeah.
It's insane, isn't it? I mean, it really is. Well,
So-
when Martina was predicting who was going to have the first point in a doubles match, like a quarterfinal doubles match at some obscure tournament outside of South Carolina, I was like, wait a minute. You got to be kidding me, man. What has the world come to? All right. This Lady Canes game, though, I mean, if you were on the money line there last night, I think you made a nice score, and it was great. A girl named Destiny Harden puts in a bucket with 3.3 seconds to go. Indiana, who is ranked third in the country, is unable to answer back. They barely get the ball over the half-court stripe, don't even get a shot off. And this was after they had tied the game in dramatic fashion. The Canes had made some good plays down the stretch, including a couple of clutch free throws and a three-point shot by one of the Cavender twins, who, I mean, it's funny because, you see people on social media, they become big stars, and you're thinking, so who are these people?
Exactly.
Can they actually do anything? Or is this like an athletic Kardashian situation?
That's honestly what I thought it was.
Right? I mean, because you're thinking, wow, we got these two hot girls that are twins, and they're very entertaining. Obviously, to a lot of people, they have a huge following. They were making like $1 million a year in name, image, and likeness because their videos, I guess, get millions of hits, right?
Yes, they're big when it comes to TikTok.
And they were kind of fun, right? They had the thing with the basketballs, and you were like, wow, here's two hot chicks with basketball skills. It's very appealing and entertaining, right? And they're doing tricks and spinning balls and doing all kinds of stuff. And, very beautiful young girls, 5'6", in great shape, obviously, because they're running up and down full court with the
They had
Lady
9 and
Canes.
3. Like just to let you know, they had 9 and like that's their involvement in the actual basketball. They had 9 and 3, like the two of them. Like,
What, points?
yes, one had 9. And
But it wasn't so much that. You know what? They added a lot of steadiness to the floor game, Lubie.
okay.
I would say it was almost like you were watching Casey Jones with the Celtics, and a lot of people thought, well, geez, this guy's averaging like 6 points a game, and he rarely shoots the basketball. When he does, it looks awkward. Although he makes a decent percentage. But he was like a metronomic presence. These two girls, the Cavender twins, I was impressed with what they did. I really was. Hit a clutch three. And the girl that had 9, whichever one that was, I think it's Holly and Haley or something like that.
Both have an H, so it doesn't.
Yeah,
it doesn't help.
I'm not sure. I mean, but regardless, they were a contributing presence and factor in the ballgame. The big shot though was made by a young lady named Destiny Harden, and it looked like she yanked it to the left. This ball, I mean, normally doesn't go in. It was one of those Allen Houston shots. Kind of, although it hit the left side of the rim. She's shooting right-handed while kind of moving to her right. And normally, if you hit the left side of the rim, that ball is not spinning back into the basket. Would you agree with that, Mr. Coach?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, when you yank one like that, it's coming off, nice, easy rebound for the other team, and they're going to have the ball. And in a tie ball game, probably not necessarily with enough time to win it. 3.3 seconds. But, possibility. They just hit a miracle shot to tie the game at the other end of the floor. So this Destiny Harden gets the ball at drop, 3.3 seconds to go. And the Hurricanes pull off the Lady Hurricanes, a monumental upset over Indiana. 14.5-point dogs. They make it to the Sweet 16. It's the first time since 1992, the Fern Labonte era. When literally, I mean, poor Paul D, he could see, the grief in my face. And I had to feign like I was into it.
Oh, things going all right.
Oh, great. Fern's coming over. And you're thinking, can they just go get a fucking hot dog during the halftime thing like Sonny Hirsch is doing? But I was young. I was, kind of just getting started. And I was really happy to have that job. I mean, as I am to have any job in this racket. And, and I really enjoyed calling the basketball games. So, although that year, I think I was doing color analysis with Sonny. And the next year, Sonny had lost his voice. He had some kind of voice problem. And so I ended up doing the play-by-play many times with the great Tony Fiorentino. And we had a blast, but, the team sucked. And so the Lady Canes were actually probably as prominent as the men's team was. Although Leonard Hamilton brought a little bit of a spark, but the results just weren't happening. This guy, I mean, if it wasn't for bad luck during that period of time, he wouldn't have had no luck at all, right? Your opening practice, you recruited this guy. Did you ever watch that documentary on Sebastian Telfair, Through the Fire, Lubie? Have you seen that?
I've seen parts of it, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's really well done. And Patino's, a prominent presence in that documentary because he was recruiting Telfair out of high school before he decided to go pro out of high school, which unfortunately, his pro career probably didn't measure up to, the promise that he had shown by being, I mean, this was like the hottest recruit in the country, was it not? Sebastian Telfair, was he like the number one guy?
I think he was number one. If not, he was top 3. He was a big deal.
Man, I mean, a guy that's averaging, Eddie Kaplan said this to me, my good friend Eddie Kaplan, a great sportscaster who, was on until the last West Coast score was in during those days. Imagine that. You had an overnight guy on AM radio live, Lubie.
That's crazy. You don't even have an evening guy.
There were dinosaurs in the parking lot. It was great. But yeah, I mean, it was really something to see this, what was happening there. But yeah, the Hurricane men's basketball team was just absolute garbage at that time, and so the women were somewhat prominent. Long time ago. 1992. So this was great yesterday to see this kind of an upset. Katie Meyer is the head coach now.
Yes.
And she was overwhelmed with joy. That was nice to see. I did think the Cavenders were effective ball players, as they were equally attractive to look at while they were running around on the floor there. Indiana has some pretty good players, also very prominent players. And so that was huge. And it was in Indiana, in Bloomington. Bobby Knight, is he still around? He might have even been at the game.
I think he's alive. Yeah.
I like when the the home team, in our case, the University of Miami, leaves the crowd weeping. They weren't necessarily crying in Albany when the Hurricanes prevailed in that second game over Indiana, but they were weeping in the stands for the women's team and their defeat because they had high hopes, right? They were a number 1 seed.
Yes.
They're playing at home. They're in against a team they're 15-point favorites over.
Easy. We're that big a favorite. Oh, my God.
It looked like the Canes were crumbling. It was one of those games. I mean, the third quarter by the Hurricane women's team looked like the first half of the Hurricane men's team effort against Drake. Bricks. I mean, bricks of gigantic proportions, Lubie. You could hear the person calling brick on every shot. And that was the opposing coach. Brick, warning their players to look for an awkward rebound. Unbelievable. All right, a lot of fun, though, watching this thing last night, and congratulations. That was certainly very well-deserved. A couple of other things. Grant Long going to join us, in about 10 minutes here on the program?
Yes, sir.
Okay, we'll get into that. Grant Long on the NBA. The Panthers made it into a playoff position yesterday.
Yep, right now, as it stands.
Wild cards, the old wild card. C'est la vie, my friends. I mean, it would be somewhat disgraceful, would it not, for them to make? And I
just make it. I mean,
I mentioned this, so I'm thinking, I'm trying to, come up. Usually, we make blockbuster trades where the other team is the benefactor of one of the more lopsided trades in history, right? Where we give
Yes.
up like Miggy Cabrera for a bunch of scrubs. No, or I mean, any of the players that we've traded away in the history of the Marlins, it was almost always overwhelmingly the deal was in favor of the other team. It was like Lou Brock for Ernie Brolio, but we were getting Brolio.
Yep. Outside of the Shaq trade, I mean,
Shacquisition was a good one.
most of the trades went against any of the teams. Whenever they make a Salvador team makes a trade, it usually is a total fucking disaster.
Dolphins. I mean, can we think of any big time Dolphin trades that were monumentally favorable to the Fins?
Brandon Marshall was a trade, wasn't it? Wasn't Brandon Marshall a trade?
I would say yes to that, but
They signed
I'm not
Wallace.
positive.
Mike Wallace, they signed.
Mike
right?
Wallace was a free agent. Yeah,
They traded, and they signed Sue, but I thought they traded for Brandon Marshall, and I remember that not working.
who did they give up for Brandon Marshall?
Picks like a second rounder. I'll look it up now, but I
Yeah.
swear that was a trade.
It's hard to evaluate picks because you don't remember necessarily, except for like the Kevin McHale dealing with the Chief. This Kachuk for Huberto deal, though, which essentially was what that trade was with the Calgary Flamados. I think Kachuk for Huberto is one of the most overwhelmingly favorable deals for a South Florida team that's ever been made in history. No, can we think of anything, or is it just that our memories are shot, Libby? Anything close to that, where the home team made out like a bandit and traded off a guy who was in serious decline? I know we got rid of some guys as part of other deals, but usually it's like Miggy Cabrera for a bunch of prospects, no?
I mean, the Marlins have done it like 3 times where the trades were a fucking joke.
Unreal, right? I mean, I guess it was good they unloaded Giancarlo Stanton because as a Marlin, even after hitting 58 home runs, didn't he hit 58 his last year as a Marlin?
Yes.
Giancarlo Stanton before signing with the Yankees?
I think it was 59.
59 home runs, wow.
Yeah, he won the MVP. Didn't he win the MVP?
At Marlins Park at the time, now known as Lone Shark Park, which, yeah, I mean, that would be great, right? You go down there and you need some money, no problem. Nobody's going to know you borrowed it off a bookmaker because there's nobody else there to witness it. It's crazy, though. And how insane will that ballpark be with USA Japan? Or is it just a Latin thing here at Lone Shark Park for this World Baseball Classic? What do you think, Libby? I mean, do they draw any people? Do the people in the States care about the World Baseball Classic? I don't even know who's on our team. Do you?
I've only heard Mike Trout is on the team. And Trey Turner, I guess. I have not heard an American talk about it at all. The Latin contingent have gotten into it. And
they love it, man.
I don't know any Americans. I mean, look, you have the fucking tournament. You have the NBA. You have the NHL. You have golf. You have literally everything. Football, there's still the off season has been ridiculous. Like, there's just so much going on that I have. If it was in the summer, I probably would have paid attention. The problem is, I guess they don't want to take a break in the season. Like, I haven't cared about it at all. And I care about sports. So the lay fan, my dad isn't talking. My dad loves sports. Hasn't talked about it at all. My father-in-law is Dominican and has a baseball interest. Hasn't talked about it at all.
The sidebar stories have been of more interest. The injuries, Mets season possibly ruined with Edwin Diaz going down for the year. Jose Altuve is probably going to miss a couple of months, broken thumb surgery. And so the Houston Astros might be compromised, as who knows how long of an adjustment it'll take for him to come back after he gets back in the lineup. And then this Cuban defector, what kind of balls does it take to walk away from the Cuban national team like this guy Prieto Gonzalez did, apparently? And how the hell did he pull it off, Libby?
I think it's amazing, and I'm surprised more don't do it.
Well, we've seen boxers do it. That's been more frequent. We've seen like El Duque, but he came over here like on a 165-foot yacht, did he not? They had him. They made it sound like his adventure was along the lines of Alien Gonzalez, that he was in some like tire tube in the middle of the Florida Straits before my friend Sam saved him. When he was out fishing on a Thanksgiving day. Sam Ciencio was the guy, the fisherman, El Pescador. Was I bought that house off Sam Ciencio. You know the story.
Yes.
And he happened to take off on Thanksgiving Day, and just next thing you know, he's in the center of an international dispute. Just a simple guy, too. I mean, he was like a roofer by trade, but he did a lot of like remodeling of homes and renovating them and then selling, fixing. What was that? Flipping houses was one of his things. So it turned out to be a very good thing. I mean, that was a great spot, and perhaps I don't know. Was that an omen that something spectacular happened there, Louis? That the boat left from my dock there to pick this kid up out of the water, and
It wasn't an omen.
but they made it sound like El Duque came over under the same circumstances, right? And I guess the truth was he was on like some DiCaprio type yacht.
Oh, okay.
On his way over here. But it has to take like a lot of balls, no? I mean, to pull this off. Prieto Gonzalez. So maybe we'll follow that story. I don't know if this guy was a prominent player or not, like a pro prospect.
No idea.
As you would imagine at one time, right? Wouldn't every major league team have been trying to pry these guys loose from the Cuban national team?
Usually loaded.
They had a fat guy. Was that guy any good? How was the fat guy on the Cuban national team? Who was he? Maybe somebody can help us out with that.
I have no idea.
All right, we're coming back with Grant Long. We'll talk about the NBA and the tail end of the regular season and all the jockeying for position that's going on. And as Lubie wants to continue to do, discounting the Lakers once they get LeBron back. Lubie, watch out. Watch out, Lubie. Watch out. I'm telling you, they're going deep into the playoffs. They may win it all.
Aren't they out of the – I don't even think they're in the –
It's so close in both conferences. It's amazing. I mean like we were talking about yesterday, any one of 5 teams can be in there in the East, and I think it's the same in the West. I believe so. All right, so we're going to come back, talk to Grant Long, one of our favorites here, original member of the Miami Heat, 15 years as a pro in the NBA, and currently on the Detroit Pistons broadcast team, although that can't be a whole lot of fun unless they get Wemby. You need that ping pong ball to fall also, though. I mean, you can't just be the worst team.
Yeah, they need him bad. The going and getting Wiseman has helped. I mean, they almost beat the Heat the other day. Wiseman.
But what happened to Cade Cunningham though? This guy just flamed out.
At all. Is he hurt? We'll have to ask.
He had to be injured.
Hurt or not? Because I haven't seen him. This is year 2. And I haven't seen him at all. It's
the
guy.
I think Zion has played more than this guy. Unbelievable.
Yeah, I think he has.
All right, we're going to come back with Grant Long in just a moment, and then later on, the second hour is going to be absolutely a pleasure for us. Dusty May going to be with us, the head coach at FAU, Cinderella Story, working there, and of course, the great Jim Larranaga going to be with us about 8:35. Head coach at the University of Miami, off a wild weekend of action. Wild, Lubie. Just have to, wild. Stretch that out. Wild weekend of NCAA action, and we had a couple of local teams that made it into the next round. So we'll talk with both head coaches in the 8 o'clock hour here on the Defo Show. Back with more in a moment. Now that.
The time.
7:38.
Folks, Tony Segreto here. Let me ask you a question. What do you look for when you go out to eat? Good food, obviously. Friendly atmosphere, not too loud, but good energy, reasonable prices, and a place where you feel comfortable. All those ingredients, no pun meant there, are hard to find unless you're talking about the Texas Roadhouse. You see, they encompass all of those attributes. Really, really good food, amazing atmosphere, good for a family, good for a date, or just a night out for yourself, and prices that will make you extremely happy. Their ribs, unmatched. Steaks, hand-cut every day. Everything, and I mean everything, is made on site, including their incredible bread. It's the one day, folks, that you can forget about low-carb diets. Trust me when I tell you, Texas Roadhouse, your restaurant, your destination when you say, where should we go and eat tonight?
From the newly renovated sports bar to the beautiful bayside views captured at the Tiki Bar, Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill has it all. Located at mile marker 104, the Big Chill also offers waterfront dining while experiencing breathtaking sunset views of the Florida Keys. It's simply the hottest spot in the Keys to cool off. That's Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill at mile marker 104 in Key Largo. For more information, call today at 305-453-9066.
This comes from the great Defo Llama. It's the bets you don't make, the chances you don't take, that can compromise an otherwise incredible life, my friend.
The only way to get your morning started is with Defo, joined by Lubie, right here on The Defo Show.
Welcome back to the show. Jeff DeForest, Mike Lubie. Lubitz with you. The Defo Show. Later on, going to be a lot of fun. We talked to Dusty May, the head coach at FAU, onto the Sweet 16 to take on Tennessee on Thursday. And the great Jim Larranaga, always a pleasure. A basketball treasure chest comes your way at about 8:35 here this morning. And, of course, writing another nice story with the University of Miami men's basketball team. Joining us right now, and this is a guy that never, I don't think in his entire career, he ever was forced into a situation where, as he hoisted up a shot from the baseline there, from the left side on the baseline, he had to yell simultaneously with the ball leaving his hand, "Brick!" And we've been seeing a lot of bricks being hoisted up there, especially during the NCAA tournament. As sensational as it's been, there's been more than the share of boulders, including the entire first half, maybe the whole game, against Drake. We welcome to the show the great Grant Long, original member of the Miami Heat. Grant, how are you, my friend?
Oh, it's a great Sweet 16 week, baby. How are you?
Good morning.
Doing well, and it was very exciting. I'm sure you're a basketball junkie, like the rest of us are, and I have to admit I did watch some college basketball this year, but I'm like a lot of people now, and I just really get into it in the tournament, and then like it is with the Stanley Cup playoffs here, all of a sudden everybody knows hockey, like everybody knows the college game, but I just thought it was as exciting a 4-day period of sports activity as I've seen, and sensational with the upsets and all the different things that happen, and still appears to be wide open. I mentioned that my bracket looked like Vito Anafirmo's face after the Hagler fight. Your brother could relate to that. But I don't know. I mean, did you see any of this? Were you able to foresee even Michigan State being in the Sweet 16?
Hey, listen, I crumbled my bracket up the first game, the first night I threw it away.
That's when I was dead too. I was dead in the water, like at game one.
Yeah, it was out of whack. But, I guess that's what it's all about, though, because everybody feels like they've got a chance. And in college sports during the 64-team tournament, it really does. That's exactly what happens. Every year, there's some Cinderella team. And I guess that's why, like you said, Defo, us basketball junkies watch it at that time, because who's going to emerge as that Cinderella? Who's going to just step up and have a run that even if they don't get to the final game, but they had a run that just interrupted everybody else's season or run to the tournament? And that's the school that everybody's looking for. Everybody seems to be glued to watch.
I mean, you talk about diminutive. Fairleigh Dickinson brings a team in there where I think their center was like 5'9". It looked like Lubie's youth basketball team, and they put the fat kid at center. I mean, they had nothing, and they go in there and they knock off Purdue. I don't know. Did you see any of that game? I'm looking at this monster, Zach Edey, the college basketball player of the year for Purdue. He's like 7'5", and he's in there calling for the ball as if he was Ronnie Cycli, and they never get it to him. They go 10 minutes without lobbing the ball into a guy that's 2 feet taller than any of the opponent's players that are out there on the floor.
Yeah, and you know what? And that's what the college basketball game now is mirroring the NBA game, where it's sad to say that the taller guys who can't shoot, break defenses down from the perimeter, they're like dinosaurs.
Yeah.
I watched a little bit of that Purdue game, and you're right, they couldn't get him the basketball. Obviously, he would dominate if they did, but it's a 3-ball type of game now, like the NBA, and so that's the way it's being played. That's the way it's being coached. I feel bad for the guys who are back-to-the-basket players who might even be good players, but because they can't shoot the ball from the perimeter, because they can't dribble out on the perimeter, they're probably going to be looked past. They're going to be overlooked. And like I said, talented players, it's just not their time to be playing basketball or getting the basketball, I should say, and being an integral part of the offense. Maybe it'll come back around where you get one of those players or two of those players that are back-to-the-basket guys, and it might change the way the teams are playing. But right now, it is a perimeter-oriented game. You've got to be able to shoot and break down the defense from the perimeter. If you can't do that, more than likely you're going to be sitting next to the coach.
Do you agree, Grant Long, with a friend of ours, that Zach Edey of Purdue looks a lot like the Purdue mascot?
Purdue Pete.
Yeah. I mean, the head is about the same shape, I think, and maybe even the same size. Is there a team that you like? I mean, there are obviously shockers. We have a couple of local entries here. You got Michigan State in the tournament. We have FAU and the University of Miami. And then, for me, the oddball by far, although after the fact, everybody can handicap the race after the horses in the winner's circle and say, I told you the 3 looked good. But, all of a sudden it's like, whoa, the Ivy League, man. They're a force to be reckoned with. And, what did Bill Bradley come back, to shoot a couple of 16-footers off a screen? How is Princeton still alive in this thing?
The backdoor cuts are going to
Yeah.
always be a prevalent part of basketball. And just what we just talked about, basketball being played from the perimeter now and 3-point shots. But Princeton is always, just think about it, they've played the same way the entire time we've been watching them. Come out to the perimeter, make a backdoor cut, and make a backdoor cut. If you're not prepared for that, they're going to beat you. They always seem to sneak up and catch somebody napping. And here they are once again. They've caught the field napping. And I'll also say this, that like you mentioned, Michigan State, I don't think anybody in the state of Michigan thought that they would be where they are right now. But Tom Izzo pulled another rabbit. And then you think about Jim Larranaga, one of my favorite people in the world.
Isn't he great?
I'm just happy to see him having the success that he's having right now. He deserves it. A basketball lifer. He was in the MAC conference when I was played against his teams at Bowling Green quite a bit. Just a phenomenal guy and always a joy to talk to. So make sure you guys say hello for me when he comes on this morning.
Oh, we definitely will. Yeah. And on those backdoor picks, I mean, did you ever run into one? The blind pick along the baseline, that was always especially painful when you ran into like an Anthony Mason or something, or a Bill Laimbeer, I would imagine. Who was the guy? I mean, I guess in practice, it might have been Rowinski when you were playing for the Heat.
Rowinski was the only guy that had enough to set a screen. Everybody else, you run hard and they would move out of the way. But Rowinski, it was like he was a magnet for contact.
He was like a hockey goon in sneakers. He was great.
Oh, he came on the floor to divvy out the pain, the punishment. That's what his job was. You hit it right on the head. You go like the hockey guys. That's what their mission is.
Yeah.
Get the skates on, get out there and divvy out the pain.
That was at a time, too, where the refs would let some of that go, I mean, obviously, when Laimbeer body slammed Larry Bird and Bird was called for an offensive foul.
Too bad they didn't have review.
Yeah, I mean, he looked like Bruno Sammartino with the Garden, just dropping Monsoon on his knee. All right, let's get into the NBA. I'm naturally, you always look at the top, but I'm looking at the bottom here. I was one of those people throughout my lifetime that always felt, you don't want to dilute the playoffs and add more teams. And yet, I'm looking at what's happening in the East. I think you have 5 teams there that go from like 8 on down that all have a reasonable shot to get into that playoff position. And then in the West, you have like even the Lakers scrambling to try and get there, hoping that LeBron can shake off that foot injury, come back and, make, a little bit of a move there. And then they might be dangerous. But I'm loving it. I mean, so many cities are still involved. What's your thought about the expanded playoffs and the whole playing thing? Because there are people that really don't like the whole idea of having that situation.
Yeah. It's not a matter of me not liking it. I'm going to hold true to what the stats say. There are guys that are averaging 4 points a game screaming, hey, if I got more shots, I'd average 12 points a game. That's just not the case. It's just not the case, and that's what I mean. I say that to say that the teams that are at the bottom, they're at the bottom for a reason. They've been that way all season long. So there's no reason for me to think that there's a Princeton in the group when you talk about playing in the play-in game, or the teams that are in the 7, 8 position. They're going to all of a sudden upset the number 2 seed, number 1 seed. That's not going to happen. I just don't foresee that happening. Although it's happened in the past once or twice.
Yeah,
there's nobody I believe that's built to be that way, to be that team that's going to overtake a high seeded team because they're all of a sudden their positioning is so low. It's just not going to happen. So I don't find that part of it so intriguing. Top teams in the East are the teams that are going to stay there. They're going to make it to the finals. Top teams in the West, those are the teams that are going to. They've been doing it all season long. They've been doing it all season long. So I have no reason to believe that those bottom tier teams in the East and West are going to have an opportunity to do or move throughout the playoffs in the postseason.
Grant, look, you've been in the league a long time, so you have a better perspective than I understand home versus away is a thing. There's a reason you fight to be home, and The home team usually wins, but the really good teams, defending champion teams, usually play well on the road or at home. What the hell's going on with the Warriors? Because last time we talked with you, you said you have to keep an eye on the Warriors. I said that last year all year, and I ended up being right. They ended up winning the title, even though people forgot about them when Steph Curry was hurt last year. This year, whether it's Curry hurt or not, they're great at home. They are one of the top, I think, 3 or 4 teams in the NBA at home. They're horrendous on the road. They're one of the bottom 5 teams on the road. You played a long time. I understand role players play better on the road, but everyone for that team is playing like garbage on the road. Like, have you seen anything like that where such a good team is so bad on the road and so good at home?
Well, they are a good team, but they are a little bit long in the tooth at this point. And I think they had their early run of success, and they had it so abundantly that this is what, to me, they're chink in the armor, so to speak. They're starting to wear down where, yeah, they are just playing well at home. And if they can get into a playoff situation, certainly they're going to be a difficult out. But the simple reasoning behind it is that they're just getting older now, and playing on the road just doesn't appeal to them. And I know that's a bad thing to say. It just doesn't appeal to them. They're ready to get going and playing at home where they're going to have success. And they figured out if they just win their home game, they're fine. They're fine. So like I said, that's a veteran team. That's a little bit older than they were when they had their great run. They're just trying to hold on. They remember back in the day when San Antonio used to always piecemeal together their team and they would be very competitive. Well, the Golden State Warriors, they haven't been able to do that. They've kept their nucleus together, but they haven't been able to surround the guys with those other players that continue to motivate the older players that are there. And I think San Antonio did a great job of that, but the Warriors seem to be stumbling as they try to regroup their team to that championship status.
Some would say that they're kind of a modern day dynasty, or have been. I have to put them behind the Showtime Lakers, well behind, just based on the fact that we know women weaken legs, Grant Long. And if James Worthy and Magic could do those things in the hotel rooms that they supposedly were up to and still win on the road, that puts them way ahead. I don't know what the Warriors are doing, but something's up there, man. It's more than old age. It's not arthritis. I believe something else is happening there.
You saw the movie Showtime with the Lakers dynasty. So everything that was going on there, they were still managing to win. So it was a different time back then, Defo, a different time.
yeah, for sure. I mean, but the portrayal of Pat Riley, I thought was so misguided in that show. I couldn't get over that. They made him look like Joe Pepitone, who, may he rest in peace, just passed away. I mean, giant schnoz. When did Riley ever look like he was just a disheveled mess and psychologically ready to crumble?
Considering how he's looked throughout our knowledge of having Pat Riley around, I've never seen him look like it. It must have been his first year out of Kentucky that he looked like that, because I've never seen him. It's always been the slick hair, the nice tailored suits.
Polished.
I don't know where that guy came from.
Right. I mean, if you were going to dress for success, it's Pat Riley. I mean, he's not coming on a show like some schlub like Lubie and I do. I mean, he's going to be impeccably dressed right from the start. All right. What do you think now? The Miami Heat, Lubie's very concerned about. They do not appear, I think we've discussed this before, they don't appear to be championship material. It does look like they have a shot to sneak into that 6th spot. And, we're thinking, that looms as ringing death anyway, because the top 3 teams in the East appear to have some distance between themselves and the rest of the conference. Would you say that's a fair assessment? The Heat, not championship material and probably doomed to a first-round playoff loss.
Yeah, they were just in town a couple of days ago, and they shot the ball well.
Oh, man, that was an ugly game, huh?
You guys almost won that game.
Yeah.
Good for you. I mean, yeah.
Second night of the back-to-back, they lost to Chicago on the first night. Yep. But I was concerned because they struggled with the Detroit Pistons, who are, as we know, on the bottom, and they've been at the bottom all season long. But they struggled with the Detroit Pistons, so that was a little bit of concern for me. But at the end, they won the basketball game. They did all the right things. They made shots. Tyler Hero's an amazing shooter. I mean, this guy can shoot coming off the bus. He can make shots. So they've always got a chance. And they're very disciplined, very well coached, and obviously with Pat Riley at the helm there, behind Spoelstra, they've got a shooter's chance, so to speak. But the East is what it is. Those top tier teams, Milwaukee, Boston, and maybe even Philadelphia, I think they're just going to be too much for Miami to overtake. But I don't see a first round exit though. I see a second round exit, but not a first round exit.
Oh wow, you think they can beat any of the top three? I mean, you're talking about Milwaukee, Philadelphia, and the Boston Celtics, who've been good all year.
Yeah, I think they're in the first round. I think they advance.
All right. Wow, strong ground long, ladies and gentlemen.
Let me ask you, because when it comes to the Heat, we've seen, and you played on a lot of teams with a lot of different personalities. Jimmy Butler, we know, has rubbed people the wrong way until he got to Miami. And no matter what has happened in Miami, walking through a coach or this or that, it's always been family, and they've always gotten over it, and it's always made them stronger. This year, he's having a season as anyone. I mean, outside of Jokic, Giannis, and Embiid, you can put Jimmy Butler up there with anyone. I mean, what he's doing on both ends of the floor, there's not really anyone else doing it to the extent he's doing it. Yet every night they struggle, even against the likes of the Pistons and the Bulls, because he's not getting a lot of help, and he hasn't gotten a lot of help all season long. And you've seen it wear on him. Like literally last week, he left a game with time on the clock. He put like a LeBron or like a Randy Moss, where he was so frustrated and so exasperated that as the time was ticking off in a loss, he walked off the floor. They actually got a technical for it, something that Jimmy Butler would never do. What is it like to be on a team like that where the star is really giving his all? He's trying in practice, doing everything, and everyone else is just letting him down?
Yeah, that's just one of those frustrating parts of the season, I believe. And I don't think anybody on his team will make a big deal about it. But when you look at the roster, they've got three guys that are averaging 20 points.
Yep.
That's pretty good. Bam Adebayo has come a long, long way. But Jimmy Butler is Jimmy Butler, and then there's everybody else.
Yep.
He doesn't have that second or third guy to go with him that's going to be at his level. You know, Bam has been an all-star, and he's a good player, but he's not at the level of a Jimmy Butler. And sad to say, that's what it's going to take, unless he can will the rest of those guys. I mean, they got Duncan Robinson. We haven't heard from him in a long time.
He's missing in action. Yeah.
Yeah. Kyle Lowry is, his best years are probably behind him. So they're trying to just really, really will themselves to win, and hopefully they can do that with Jimmy. Jimmy can will those guys to win, but he doesn't have the talent level that he is. So a lot of it is going to fall on his shoulders. How can he make those? We use that analogy a lot. Is he going to make the players around him better? Well, yeah. He can make them better, but how much better do they need to be? I don't know if he can do that. He's not a wizard.
Yeah.
He doesn't look happy, man. He always looks dead serious out there on the court. I don't think I've ever seen him smile. All right, it's cool to be all business. Speaking of which, I mean, just on the opposite end of the spectrum, any thoughts about what happened here? I mean, you've been around many young guys that have come into the league, and 15 years in the NBA. You've seen young kids come in, expected stardom or achieve stardom. What happened to John Morant? I mean, he seemed to be a well-grounded individual. All of a sudden, he's like Money Mayweather out there. I would imagine. It's got to be very, very much of a life-changing experience to all of a sudden be making today's NBA money, especially. Have you seen it ruin guys before? I don't know that it's going to ruin him. Hopefully, he bounces back now and gets his head on straight.
That's a sad, sad state of affairs. For the Memphis Grizzlies, who were trending upward with their star player. It just signed his own signature shoe with Nike.
Yep.
And then to kind of have the wheels fall off this thing.
Wow.
And by his own doing. It's not like he had some outside stuff going on. It was just bad decisions on his part. And, I can't give him the excuse that he's a young player, because he's been in the league now a few years, and that should not be happening. I'm going to go something real personal here and say I've seen his dad at just about every game, sitting on the sidelines. I think his dad has become more of a fan instead of he's given up his title of dad.
He's not guiding him
in favor of being a fan, and I think that's where John Morant and his dad have lost the ball. T. Morant is his dad.
Yeah,
got to be a dad.
Yeah,
that kid needs a dad. Not a fan. He's got enough fans. He needs a dad. I think that's where his dad dropped the ball. Maybe he can get it back. It's not too late.
Let's hope he does, man, because marvelous talent out there. And, it's nice to see the Grizzlies who staggered in Vancouver and were a non-entity altogether, taking advantage of having some kind of good young talent on the team. And, you're thinking, aren't the Grizzlies glad that the Pelicans took Zion Williamson? at number one. Grant, we love you, man. Great stuff as always. Thanks so much for being with us on the show. It's always a pleasure, my friend. Enjoy the rest of the tournament and, of course, the rest of the basketball season, and we'll talk to you again real soon.
Okay, guys. Thank you. You too.
Thanks,
Grant Long, ladies and gentlemen. Always a pleasure. Everybody digs the Rowinski stuff, huh? We run that by Ronnie Rothstein.
I don't know if they dig it.
You even remember Jim Rowinski?
I didn't know him at all. I just know whenever we have anyone related to the Heat at all, you always bring him up.
Well, I mean, you've done this. Anybody that's played basketball, at some point in time, you're following your guy along the baseline. Maybe he's on the left side, and he starts to run along the baseline to the right, underneath the basket, and he happens to run you into a completely blind pick. And you're thinking, what, Rick Mahorn? I mean, who would be the guy that you wouldn't want to run into?
Yeah, Lambier, Mahorn. I mean,
Lambier would embellish whatever he was doing, and that was back at a time in the NBA where they didn't mind an elbow to the teeth. Very sensitive about these moving screens today, right? The guy moves his hip like a half an inch. All of a sudden, there you go. It's on you. 32. Shooting 2. All right, we're coming back, and this will be a lot of fun. We're going to get into the Sweet 16. It's going to be very sweet. Double sweet. As Lubie's got like a chocolate cake with a little, syrup on top. Both Dusty May, the head coach at FAU. I'm thinking, that's Cinderella stuff, is it not? FAU? Whoever heard of Florida Atlantic? Nobody even knew it was a university.
Look, they were good all year, and they're not a 13 or 14 seed.
No.
Like Princeton, a 15 seed, but they're a 9 seed.
Mid-pack.
Losing. What do you mean? The professor had them getting annihilated in the first round.
Annihilated, yes.
So
and with an interesting theory that there was going to be a Memphis team out there that was just too athletic for them, that they hadn't seen anything quite like this. So Dusty May finds a way to combat that and comes out with a nice victory there, and comes right back against the Cinderella of Cinderellas, Fairleigh Dickinson.
Yes,
and really dominated that game in the end game, and now finds himself in the Sweet 16. He's going to join us. Jim Larranaga is going to be with us, and we'll be back with all of that in a moment. Now that.
The time.
It's 8:02. Ponies in Style at Champions, the outstanding simulcasting room at beautiful Hialeah Park. Yes, the grand old lady of thoroughbred racing has never been more vibrant, and you can wager on the races from the top tracks around the country while enjoying a cocktail at the Brass Rail Bar or any of the fine food served throughout the facility. If poker is your game, you're covered in style. And you can play all your favorite Vegas-style games, including blackjack, craps, and roulette, in Hialeah Park's sizzling hot casino. Get a player's card when you walk through the door for all kinds of generous amenities, including our favorite, free play, when you come out to the ultimate casino and entertainment destination, Hialeah Park.
Hey folks, Tony Segreto here. Since day one, Catholic Health Services has been part of Old School. And since we've started letting people know about them, it's changed their lives. You see, Catholic Health Services, while being recognized as one of the top places for stroke rehab in the country, it's also about a group of people who not just excel in what they do, from the doctors to the nurses to the therapists, on and on and on. It's how they do what they do every single day that separates them from the pack. They do it with a passion, unmatched, and the inclusion of family in every step of the process. Trust me when I tell you this. If you want the best, unmatched rehab with a special group of skilled, caring people, there is truly only one place, and that one place is Catholic Health Services.
These days, we're all looking for comfort anywhere we can find it. Thank goodness for Landlubbers Raw Bar and Grill in the Plantation location, because they are making sure you are as comfortable as possible. First of all, they're not only open for delivery and pickup. All you have to do is go to landlubbersbarandgrill.com for both pickup and free delivery. Their hours have changed a little bit. Monday through Thursday from 3:30 to 10, and Friday, Saturday, and Sunday from 11:30 to 10. You're going to have the best wings in the world. You're going to have a great burger. You're going to have their amazing soups. Again, Landlubbers, Raw Bar and Grill. It's nice and easy. Just go to landlubbersbarandgrill.com for both your pickup and free delivery. Thank goodness for Landlubbers for making you always feel right at home. To be or not to be, that is the question. Whether 'tis nobler in the mind to suffer the slings and arrows of outrageous fortune, or to take arms against a sea of troubles, and by opposing end them, to die, to sleep, no more, and by asleep, to say we end the heartache and 1,000 natural shocks.
What could that have been about, except to hedge or not to hedge?
The modern day odd couple, Defo and Lubie, are on now. It is, of course, the Defo Show.
Welcome back to the show. Jeff DeForest, Mike Lubie here, the Defo Show on South Florida Live. And this is great because, and Lubie has experienced this with me over the years that we've been working together. And going back in time, it probably was even more exaggerated where this city, in terms of sports coverage, this area, South Florida, was very University of Miami centric. And the people at Florida Atlantic and Florida International, they started football programs that now FAU had the advantage of having the great Howard Schnellenberger as their face of the football program at its inception. And when he would come on the air and say, "Oh, within 7 years, we're going to win a national championship," we all thought, okay, that's great, Howard, but it's unlikely to happen that FAU is going to achieve this level of height in terms of the sporting landscape. And yet, here we are with the Sweet 16 coming up. And we got wind of this when they had put on just an amazing 20-plus game winning streak during the regular season. And we're thinking, who's the coach at FAU? Dusty May. Wow, got to get this guy on the show. And he's gracious enough now to join us again after making school history. And again, a series of just firsts for this FAU basketball team. We welcome to the show the head coach of the Florida Atlantic Owls, headed for the Sweet 16, Dusty May. Dusty, how are you? Thanks for joining us again.
I'm doing great. I appreciate you having me on.
Well, it's great having you on. I was surprised. I mean, I'm figuring you're inundated with people that are requesting conversations with you and reaction and even forecasting what's going to happen in the Sweet 16. Let's back up and take a little bit of the ride and. If you can, capsulize the regular season, and you now have won 33 games in total, including a conference tournament, and found yourself in the NCAA tournament as a number 9 seed. How does this compare with what your anticipation for what the season was when you got this ball rolling?
Well, we had high hopes for the season. We won 19 games last year, had everyone back, added Nick Boyd, who had sat out last year with an injury. And then we felt like our guys had a really good summer and off season and were much improved. And especially some of the guys that last year was the first time they experienced being in a regular rotation. So there were a lot of factors that gave us hope going into the season. But we felt like we scheduled a really good mid-major schedule. We had 2 money games and then played a lot of good programs. Bryant from up this way, which was picked to win the league. South Alabama was picked to win the Sun Belt by some polls. And so we felt like we were going to be challenged. So obviously the number of wins. And then our league had the best year and since Memphis was in the league with Derrick Rose, the top 10 league in Ken Palm. So there were a lot of factors that gave us some concern about winning this number of games. But we knew we were much better than we had been. And like I said, we won 19 games last year.
Well, and you come into the NCAA tournament, a number 9 seed. You draw Memphis in the opening round of the tournament. We have a very astute college basketball follower who does invest his own finances in his opinion. And he was of the opinion, and I don't know if this was common, but and what you thought about it, that Memphis was just so athletic that this was going to be a very tall assignment for FAU, regardless of the fine season you had. What were your thoughts about the Memphis matchup when it was made, and how did you go about dealing with the fact that obviously they were, a high-flying athletic team under Penny Hardaway?
Well, I'd watched several American Conference games because we're joining the league next year. So I was familiar with them, but I wasn't that familiar where I knew their personnel. I knew their 2 best players and a couple of their role guys. But when the draw came out, the more I dove into Memphis, the more I thought they were drastically underseeded. I felt like they were probably, down the stretch last month of the season were one of the best teams in the country. They had just blown out Tulane, beat Houston soundly in the championship game. So they were playing really well down the stretch. They were a top 20 Ken Palm. So I felt like they were a top 5 seed. So in my opinion, I was concerned, obviously, but I also felt like we were underseeded as well.
So we've talked with you. We've watched a lot of the coaches, and coaches usually don't hide their emotions. They wear it on their sleeve. You see, and we love Stan Van Gundy. We've talked with him many a time. He's a guy just like his brother who on the sidelines, they're up, they're down, they're everywhere. You're the opposite of that. It's rare to see a coach like you. No matter, I could not tell what your team's doing looking at you. They'll pan to Coach Dusty May, And it's like, are they winning by like, I don't even know what's going on in the game. The dude never goes up or down. How do you stay that even keel no matter what's going on in the game?
Years of preparing myself to be that way. By nature, 180 degrees different than how I am.
Okay. Oh, yeah. Wow.
And during COVID, I really tried to dive into being a better teacher and educator. And so I doing a self-evaluation, I realized what I was doing wasn't helping our guys learn. It might make me feel better and it might make me feel more involved, but I don't think they were learning, because when they're in the heat of the battle, we can't make all the decisions. I laughed and said my first year I was joysticking every possession, and I didn't like coaching like that. And I don't think the players like playing like that as much. So, and I grew up, I really admired Tony Bennett. I really enjoyed watching Brad Stevens coach. So I think as a young guy growing up, and I was an assistant for a long time, you have a lot of time to really think about how you want to do things and how you want to be, how you want to act. So years and years of practice. But the main thing is I don't ever want to distract from our players. And I feel like if I have bad body language or if I'm being too emotional, it doesn't help them play better.
The school has made one previous NCAA tournament appearance. You're standing in front of your players as they're about to take the court. We all know, and we've seen it, where top teams, are jittery in the first game especially, and don't necessarily have their best stuff. We saw the Hurricanes shooting nothing but bricks in their opener against Drake, and putting themselves in a very vulnerable position. What do you say to your players, to keep them with that same demeanor that you displayed on the sidelines there, which, by the way, was in stark contrast to your opponent in the coaching box in the second game, Tobin Anderson, who was as animated as anybody we've seen since Raleigh Massimino, this guy.
Well, we all just kind of have to be who we are, or who, what's best for our players. So they press and they run. So his energy and his enthusiasm, I'm sure, gets them going and keeps them on edge. So it's obviously worked. They've got a great team. I was really impressed with their guard play and them overall. But as far as the jitters, I think it happened to us in the first game. But our mantra all year is we've been pretty sound on both sides of the basketball. And we've talked about when we defend at a high level and we rebound the basketball despite being extremely small. I think we're 330th in team height in the country. Then it alleviates the pressure on our offense, and we have great spurt ability. So if we feel like we just hang around, we always have a nice run or a big spurt in us. So I think that just gives our guys a lot of confidence.
So I know coaches, one game at a time, new season, we're 1-0, we're 0-0. Totally understand that. And you look at the brackets and you're focused on Memphis. Sure. But when it looked like it was going to be Purdue, then it became Fairleigh Dickinson. What changes for you from a mentality standpoint? What changes from you from a preparation standpoint? Because you go from being probably a heavy underdog to a team that may be the favorite.
Yeah, it was strange with Columbus turning into a road game. All the fans there, the Marquette, the Michigan State fans, they were all cheering for FDU. The crowd was chanting FDU, and they made a run in the second half. So I do think it was a little bit odd for our guys. But they've been, this year it's been uncharted waters. There, everywhere we've been, it's been some type of promo, a blue out or red out, some promotion, because when we got ranked, it became a big deal in our league. So our guys they're familiar with being in that villain role. It was just odd to go from an underdog who had never been there, never won a postseason game, period, to be in that situation. So. Our guys, they're unflappable. They play, they compete, and they're really unfazed whether the crowd's forced or against us. It's pretty remarkable how steady they are.
Sometimes I cover a lot of boxing in my lifetime. You can see a turning point in a fight where one blow is struck, and now you know that one of the fighters has assumed control. At what point did you feel you had control of that Fairleigh Dickinson game?
When the buzzer sounded.
There were some scrambling, players out there. I mean, they really did hustle that team. It was unbelievable.
They did, and they had some guys that shot 20+% from three during the season, just find the rhythm and groove late in the year. Part of it was matchups. We have 7-4 for Purdue. We got a 7-1 center. So in our mind, we have, we knew it was going to be a matchup problem, but we just felt like we had to have Golden to punish them at the other end. So, it's all those decisions, and then who do you put them on, because they're all small and quick and athletic, and when they're all making shots, they're difficult. But we got up double digits, and then they banged in 2 threes in the last minute. We missed both ends of a 2-shot foul.
Yeah.
So we made it a lot more interesting than it needed to be. But credit those guys; they had no quit in them.
All right. How sweet is it? You're back on campus, practicing, getting ready. A Thursday game against Tennessee. Tennessee, which annihilated my bracket by beating Duke, who I thought might make the Final Four, looked very vulnerable in their first game. They nearly lost, as I recall. What's the vibe with the team? And give us your thoughts about facing Tennessee.
Well, vibe with the team, they're excited to play, excited to be here, and I think when you win as many games as these guys won consecutively, there's no moment or stage too big. And luckily, we were able to play in a big arena in Columbus, which kind of got us, somewhat prepared to play in the Garden. Obviously, there's nothing like the Garden.
Yeah.
But as far as Tennessee, they played extremely well against Duke. They were determined. They challenged everything. They were physical. Obviously, they're playing for a Hall of Fame coach, and those guys are all very, very capable of making threes and scoring on the interior. So they present a number of challenges. Not to mention, they probably have the best defense in the United States of America. So it's going to be a task.
How cool is it that you're going to Madison Square Garden for these games?
Pretty cool. My last experience here, I was an assistant coach at Florida when Chioza hit the floater to beat Wisconsin, and then South Carolina beat us to go to the Final Four. So mixed emotions being back in the Garden, but there's nothing like it. It is the big stage.
All right, outstanding job, Dusty May. I'm sure you're in hot demand for interviews, and we couldn't appreciate any more than you took time to be with us here on the program. Congratulations. We'll be tuned in against Tennessee and rooting for the Owls, and hope another incredible story can be written, and that we get a chance to talk to you again next week as you go to the Final Four. That would be great.
Love to. That's a great Coach Schellenberger impersonation as well.
We go way back with Schnelly, and he was just a brilliant guy. And, one of the great promoters, though. I mean, that was at a time, too, where you pretty much had to promote your own sport. And nobody was better at it than Howard Schnellenberger. Yeah, he was great. All right.
Our football stadium, all that, it's impressive.
Hey, thanks so much, Dusty. Really a pleasure. And thanks so much for sharing time with us. Appreciate it. Dusty May, ladies and gentlemen. Quickly becoming one of my favorites here on the program, Lubie.
It was a fun interview. I mean, we had him on early in the year, and that was one of the rare times that the Sven Gali got me.
Yeah.
And I was like, fine, we've always done that. We've had FAU and FIU.
That's been our playbook for a long time. I always tried to at least pay a little attention, to what was going on the periphery of the massive coverage that was being generated by the University of Miami. And Miami was having a 2-decade period of dominance in football.
Yep.
And whatever they did basketball-wise was kind of a minor consideration at that time. But in general, almost anybody that was covering sports was writing about the University of Miami, and it was like FAU, FIU, very distant secondary considerations. But we always try to, be a part of, reaching. I hate that term, reaching out to, these people, but having them be a part of the package there and not ignoring what they were doing. And, as evidenced by having Mike McIntyre on the program last week, which, we just like good conversations with good people. Charlie Partridge, when he was at FAU, he's 3-9 every year, and we loved him, right?
It was fun. Look, and that's the thing and you were talking about it. I don't know if you talked about it this morning or here, but college basketball coaches are just different.
They're fantastic.
I don't know why it is. I don't know why college football coaches won't give you anything. They are cliche monsters.
Yes.
College basketball coaches, even in season, like the conversations we have with them are so fulfilling. Like I just want to talk to them for hours. Like they're honest, they crack jokes, they have a good time, and it's not just the Rick Pitino's. It's Dusty May, FIU's coach. We've had him on a few times.
Yeah.
Really, I like their intricacies and their detail to not only like when they're coaching, but when they speak about coaching is amazing. And I don't understand why college football coaches can't, like, they're so scared to give anything. It's like, who gives a shit? Like, no one's taking.
No, they're worried about spying on practices.
It's so
and things
weird.
like that.
Like, college basketball coaches don't give a damn. Like, when we were at that Final Four, we had 30-minute conversations with like 30 coaches. Like, they would just sit down there, put their legs up, joke around, and I'm like, what the hell?
They love telling stories, and they have a lot of them, which is fantastic. No, that was great, Dusty May. I mean, very animated today on the program, and obviously feeling a good vibe. And you would have to think, wow. I mean, if somehow he figures out a way, they're only 5.5 point dogs at Tennessee, and it has to be pretty cool. I remember I had a chance when I was doing the Hurricane basketball games to call some games at Madison Square Garden for the Big East tournament was contested there, and occasionally the Canes would play St. John's at the Garden. It was fantastic. I mean, the whole idea, like as an announcer walking in there, I mean, what was for me like
Oh,
a
so you like
total
a ball
thrill.
game from the Garden? I'm jealous. I've never even been
Yeah,
to the
yeah.
Garden.
Well, the Big East tournament was held at the
Yeah, yeah.
Garden, and the Canes were always in it for one game. So went up there, blew 200 at Aqueduct, and went and called the Hurricanes game, and thanked Leonard Hamilton for another great season, and said it's going to look better next year. I mean, I'm sure of that. I call more bricks during those 2 years. And almost all the games were blowouts too, which made it exceptionally tough to consider doing the Fur on the Body interview at halftime. That was 92, man. 31 years ago, Lubie. That's the last time the Hurricane ladies were able to make it into the tournament. Sweet 16. They've been in the tournament, but Sweet
yeah.
16.
Yeah, good for them. That was a huge upset yesterday.
You think Jim Larranaga sent that play to Katie Meyer and said, hey, you know what? Throw the ball in a low post there. Have a girl, in this case, Destiny Harden. She's your inside post-up player. Just take it to the rack and, force one up there. And it looks like it's way off the mark, and it goes in. Unbelievable. I will say, the ladies have improved their overall shooting. It still looked like a rugby scrum at different times, the game compared to the men's game. At times you're watching like a shot go up, it's an air ball, and it ends up on the floor, and like 8 girls are in a scramble to try and recover what looks like a fumble. And you're thinking, this doesn't really look like basketball. I suppose it happens from time to time at any level, but seems more so in the women's game. They did hit some, Indiana hit some clutch threes, man, against the Hurricanes. And it just looked like one of those games where there was going to be, from a 13-point euphoric lead at halftime, a steady collapse to the point, and finally, you know how it happens in the NBA where, I mean, somehow the home team grinds down the other team that was up 16 going into the middle of the third quarter, and that lead dissipated. It then seesawed back and forth between 2 and 1. There were half a dozen lead changes, and somehow at the end of the game, the team that was the underdog ends up losing. And, and that's what it looked like, what was going to happen in this one, except and even with a clutch shot by Indiana, the Hurricane women were able to prevail. Am I obsessed with this women's basketball? Sarney has ruined me.
I don't know, but he's at it again, and I don't know about having Nova. Like FAU at least had a chance to be in this tournament, and they made it, and they've won in this tournament. I don't know what to do with Nova. Like I don't even know what is it division. Like I don't even know how that works. Like are they in division?
Yeah, no, they're pretty far down the
I don't
totem
even know
pole.
what that is. I'm not even trying to.
Even our tentacles don't extend out to that level at this point.
I don't know who the fuck. I don't know what.
I think he's talking about the women's field hockey coach is like 33-0 or something.
He's talking about
Is that baseball? What are we talking about here?
Their basketball team, but it's like the Division 2. I don't even know what division they're in. Like I didn't know they had a team until this year.
Tony Segreto would take exception with that. He loves that Nova Southeastern University, has strong ties there. All right, Jim Larranaga going to join us in a few minutes, and that'll happen about 8:35 this morning, so that's going to be great. We thank Dusty May for being with us. We always thank you for being with us. Appreciate all the input that we get on the chat line and the nice response. 5 Reasons Sports Network is grabbing us with the Defo on 5 thing that's on there now, and Lubie's putting that up there early in the morning. So we're kind of going head-to-head with ourselves, which is a dream situation, right? When you're all channels. And, that'd be the way to – kind of like being Stephen A. Smith, right? You're on ESPN, ESPN2, ESPN3, all at the same time. We'll be back with more. Hialeah Park, I want to get a good word in for Hialeah Park because they're great people. Now you have, some big 3-year-old races coming up. And, of course, it's all heading towards the Classics there, the Kentucky Derby. That is a great place. That was a lot of fun last year, taking in the Derby at Hialeah Park. Did you not enjoy the vibe in the champion simulcasting room for the Derby? As we were out there last year, and while Rich Strike was winning, and I thought about backwheeling the 3, I sat chilly and let $2,000 slip away at the bar. Unbelievable. But I couldn't complain because I was at Hialeah Park. It was absolutely fantastic. And you're going to have a great time. Champion simulcasting room, perfectly set up for all of those races. And you can have an individual seat like Dave Gergles Gergely likes. He also likes to hoist a few at the bar. Brass Rail Bar is right there. The drinks are all very reasonable. I mean, you're just going to feel like a champ in the Champion simulcasting room. So it's aptly named. Great poker room and very professionally run. And then, of course, the casino has all your favorite Vegas-style games. So you can go ahead in there with the knowledge that you have an excellent chance to win because Steve Calabro, as he explained to Andy and me, has those machines calibrated at a point where it's like the same payouts you get in Vegas and Atlantic City, real casinos are giving you the payout. So you're in there with a chance to win. You're not going against some unregulated system there where, you think they pay out 40%? Or they're just robbing you blind. Literally the definition of the one-armed bandit, man. Every time you pull that lever, it's like money going up in smoke, smoke, smoke. Not happening at Hialeah Park. You're going to love it. You're going to love the great times that you have there. It's great for catering affairs. You got a business meeting or something. You want to go ahead and have some kind of a staff outing. Great place. The catering. Lubie can vouch for that. You've sampled the catering there many, many times.
Great. Yeah,
and a big variety of it, whether it's like a sit-down dinner with, 4 courses or 5 or the buffet style stuff that they do for that Larry Little thing, Hall of Fame golf tournament. Great. They do a tremendous job. Check them out at hialeahpark.com for all of those services. And, of course, you just get down there and take in the good vibrations that you're going to get at beautiful Hialeah Park. All right, coming back, Jim Larranaga is going to join us. A lot more to come here on the Defo Show. Pleasure being with you. And we'll be back with more in a moment. Now that.
The time.
8:26. Ponies in Style at Champions, the outstanding simulcasting room at beautiful Hialeah Park. Yes, the grand old lady of thoroughbred racing has never been more vibrant, and you can wager on the races from the top tracks around the country while enjoying a cocktail at the Brass Rail Bar or any of the fine food served throughout the facility. If poker is your game, you're covered in style, and you can play all your favorite Vegas-style games, including blackjack, craps, and roulette, in Hialeah Park's sizzling hot casino. Get a player's card when you walk through the door for all kinds of generous amenities, including our favorite, free play, when you come out to the ultimate casino and entertainment destination, Hialeah Park.
Hey folks, Tony Segreto here. Since day one, Catholic Health Services has been part of Old School. And since we've started letting people know about them, it's changed their lives. You see, Catholic Health Services, while being recognized as one of the top places for stroke rehab in the country, it's also about a group of people who not just excel in what they do, from the doctors to the nurses to the therapists, on and on and on. It's how they do what they do every single day that separates them from the pack. They do it with a passion, unmatched, and the inclusion of family in every step of the process. Trust me when I tell you this. If you want the best, unmatched rehab with a special group of skilled, caring people, there is truly only one place, and that one place is Catholic Health Services.
These days, we're all looking for comfort anywhere we can find it. Thank goodness for Landlubbers Raw Bar and Grill in the Plantation location because they are making sure you are as comfortable as possible. First of all, they're not only open for delivery and pickup. All you have to do is go to landlubbersbarandgrill.com for both pickup and free delivery. Their hours have changed a little bit. Monday through Thursday from 3:30 to 10, and Friday, Saturday, and Sunday from 11:30 to 10. You're going to have the best wings in the world. You're going to have a great burger. You're going to have their amazing soups. Again, Landlubbers, Raw Bar and Grill. It's nice and easy. Just go to landlubbersbarandgrill.com for both your pickup and free delivery. Thank goodness for Landlubbers for making you always feel right at home.
Florida, which is in the state of Florida, has been in the Stone Age forever. I mean, we're still operating by blue laws. I don't even know if you can buy a beer before 12 o'clock on a Sunday. I'm not sure what religious cult is responsible for the legislation that takes place, but essentially Florida is structured this way. We're here in South Florida, which is very hip and up with modern times. And once you get, would you say, north of Palm Beach, Mike Lubitz, West Palm Beach, Florida, for those unfamiliar with the geography of the state, if you get like 30 miles out of town here, forget about it. It's Hillbilly City. You're hearing banjo music and somebody's telling you to squat down like a pig when you pull up to the Waffle House. It's just the way it is.
The modern day odd couple, Defo and Lubie, are on now. It is, of course, the Defo Show.
Welcome back to the show, the Defo Show on this Tuesday, action-packed with Mike Lubie Lubitz getting producing credits for bringing us Dusty May. And in just a few minutes, we'll talk to the head basketball coach, Jim Larranaga. That's going to be a heck of a lot of fun. Grant Long with us earlier on the NBA and the NCAA tournament as we head into the Sweet 16. And it'll be very interesting. Did you see the smile on Jim Larranaga's face as he got off the bus yesterday? They always have, they always go with the shot of the players getting off the bus there and they get back to campus. It's kind of, one of those things. Okay, yeah, go to the files there. And sure enough, there's Jim Larranaga, big smile on his face coming off those two victories. Second one was much more indicative of Hurricane basketball this year, was it not? They do push the pace, Mike Lubie Lubitz. There is no laying back there and, taking all 30 seconds off the clock. They may exhaust the shot clock, but they certainly push the ball up the floor. So, that's interesting, too, because you would think of Jim Larranaga as being more old school, no? That he would be employing this kind of Princeton style of offense and, very basic fundamental stuff. But, man, they're run and gun, this Hurricane basketball team. Not quite Phi Slamma Jamma because they're not the biggest team by any measure.
Oh, no. They were down one dude.
Going like 6'7" across the front, and that's about it. Wong, I guess, has a size advantage over most guards at 6'4". But Nigel Pack also, is at a disadvantage against most players in that category. And their front line goes like 6'7" across. I don't think they have, they may have a taller guy on the roster, but didn't sniff too much playing time in there. At full court press, that was a good call by Jim Larranaga.
We had to talk to him about that because they actually
that turned the game around
in the game, and he was like, "Yeah, we needed something." How did he know to do? Like, I wouldn't even think about that. Like,
they had to try something. I mean, they were just hoisting brick after brick after brick. My God, you could feel. I actually, I started to bleed a little bit. I felt like I got hit in the head with a brick watching that Hurricane basketball team. And you're thinking, this just isn't going well, right? Certain games have a certain sense to them, a certain smell.
Yeah.
And, the entire ball game, you were sniffing Drake, were you not? Well, I don't want to put it that way, Lubie. I mean, just something, listed about you eyeballing the cheerleaders. I mean, that's pretty disgusting at this point. As we're celebrating basketball, to even go down that level of gutter trash talk here on the show. Maybe we should have just put Jim on right away.
It felt like Drake. Yeah, it started to really feel that way. The fact that he knew to go to it and then stay with it, because to me, it started to stress me out once it got close in that game. Like they started to break the press, and then it's like now you're giving them easy baskets. So I was like, shoot, when do you call it off? And he never called it off. They just kept going with the press the entire way, and it really helped them get that victory, which was. I never saw.
Boy, did it diffuse this Drake team, which supposedly, had this giant edge in guard play. That was their strength, was it not? And your analysis was probably, it's amazing, right? All of a sudden, you're like Billy Packer on the show here, Mike Lubie Lubitz, because your analysis was that the Hurricanes had a big edge when it came to guard play. And so that was going to negate the story that Drake was writing and the narrative before with a lot of our handicappers that Drake was a very scary proposition for that Hurricane basketball team. That turned out to be the case, but I think that was more a case of the Canes playing poorly than it was Drake doing anything overwhelmingly significant. They just couldn't make a shot. Maybe Jim Larranaga will say that the Drake defense was that intense that it threw them off their game.
All right, look. So he's Mr. Sweet 16 at this point, right?
Yes.
Mr. Sweet 16. He's requested it because we are in the middle of the segment. And the last time we called him, I think we were in the middle of the segment. So he didn't get his patented song.
Yes.
So he actually requested it. And again, if you're in back-to-back Sweet 16s, I think it's the third Sweet 16 he's taking the Canes to. You get whatever the hell you want on this show. So 1 second. So we can.
If he asked us to play "You've Lost That Loving Feeling," we would be happy to do it. Now, that's significant in my lifetime because it was actually the song my now wife, the lovely Mustang Sally, requested that we play as we walk down the aisle.
That says a lot of
Never close your eyes anymore.
This gentleman has that feeling today. I think he has more of this kind of a feeling today.
Jim Larranaga, we love you, Jim Larranaga. Coach Larranaga, won't you do us a favor? Bring us a winner, one stinking winner. Deliver a winner in this town filled with losers.
Buenos dias. The cafecito is piping hot. Why not enjoy it with Defo and Lubie? It's now time for the Defo Show.
You see, Lubie, now that AM radio is going into extinction with not even being placed in automobiles anymore by law. I mean, no more gas automobiles, no more AM radios in automobiles. Caller-driven radio had its merits. It
Yes.
really did.
Yep.
And people would routinely sing the praises of this man, who is writing yet another incredible story here with the University of Miami basketball team. And it's always a pleasure because we consider him a basketball treasure chest, and a pleasure to get to talk to him on the program here. We welcome to the show head coach at the University of Miami, headed for the Sweet 16, the great Jim Larranaga. Coach, how are you? You must be feeling pretty good because I saw the shot of you getting off the bus there, and you were all smiles, my friend. You lit up the outside there, outside the athletic center.
Yeah, it was a great day for the Miami Hurricanes basketball team, all our fans, our university, the students, and everything. Defo, did you happen to see Norshad Omier give me a hug and then
Yes,
give me a kiss?
yes, I loved every minute of that because did you show Omier pictures of Wes Unseld before the game? That was, I mean, all I could think of is 6'7", not quite the big butt that Unseld had. I don't know that he's going to launch those two-handed overhead outlet passes, but what a monster rebounding game this guy had.
Yeah, 17 rebounds, 8 offensive, 9 defensive. He was great. And we needed every one of those.
Yes, yes.
Indiana's big man is a first-team All-American. He was going into our game averaging 24 points, 11 rebounds, 5 assists, 5 blocks. So the guy, Trace Jackson Davis.
Yes, excellent player. Yeah, and you had an interesting strategy. I mean, obviously you wanted to, erase this guy, but tell us about Omier, because you told us a story about, with George Mason when you had the guy that had the 2 bum ankles, and he went and sat in Lake Michigan for like a couple of hours, and all of a sudden, I mean, it was like he went to a Benny Hinn revival. I mean, if Omier was hurting, I thought the headline, especially for the St. Patty's Day game when he played in the first game, was "Omiracle." What would have been appropriate? How the hell did this guy get better so fast?
Yeah, I got a text after Norshad Omier sprained his ankle against Duke. I got a text from one of my sons who wrote, fly Debbie Corbato down and let her do her miracle like she did for Jai Lewis back in 06.
Exactly.
And Debbie Corbato was our trainer, but we have our own Debbie Corbato in Sam Johnson, who's a miracle worker himself. I said he should be MVP of the Drake game because he spent every waking hour working with Norshad to get that ankle well enough. Norshad did not practice we lost on Friday to Duke. We did not practice Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. He finally practiced on Thursday for about a half hour.
Oh, geez.
And then played great on Friday. So it was a miracle, and Sam Johnson deserves all the credit. And, of course, Norshad, for all the time he devoted. At one point, he said to Sam, how many times do I have to come back here? And he said, until you're better. So
I don't know what you did. Yeah, I mean, that definitely looked like he came out of some religious revival there and thrown his crutches away. Short of any intervention of God, it seemed impossible he was going to play that effectively. And as you said, those were monster rebounds in the second game, and he was just as important in the first one. Let's backtrack, Coach, to the first game against Drake. We had a coach that you're probably familiar with, a former NCAA coach, Scott Spinelli, on an interview, and he does a podcast now and handicaps basketball, and talks about college basketball. And he had pointed out before this matchup was made that Drake was one of his teams to watch, that they were a very clever basketball team. And then we saw in the 5 versus 12 matchup, there you are pitted against Drake while possibly compromised without Omier, who we saw was such a huge factor. So what were your thoughts going into that game? And I have to admit, I mean, during the middle of the first half there, I think at some point towards the end, you guys were like 5 for 25 on from the floor shooting. And I was on a dilaudid drip. I don't know how you kept it together. I guess you were still in a game, so that was an encouraging thing. But that had to be a tough one, that first half to endure.
Well, here's the thing about people. There are some people that the moment is great and they're going to rise above all the pressure, all the stress, and just play great. There are some people that the circumstance, you get too excited, you're too psyched up, and it's hard. You're actually thinking too much. And that's what happened to start our game. We were so fired up. We were anxious and started taking some ill-advised shots. So we shot the ball poorly, not because we're a bad shooting team, but because everybody just wanted to play so well. And by playing so great in the last 4 minutes, going on a 16-1 run, and winning, I think, by 7 points, that allowed us to move on to play Indiana, where we were much more relaxed, much more comfortable. And I knew I have so much confidence in Isaiah Wong and Jordan Miller. I knew they were both going to bounce back and have great games. And boy, did they. Isaiah scored 27. Jordan Miller was fantastic. He had 19, plus he guarded Trace Jackson Davis and did a fantastic job on him once Norshad got in foul trouble. So when you think about the different circumstances you're dealing with as a coach, against Drake, I had to calm him down. Against Indiana, I didn't have to say anything because those guys were playing great. And I said to the media afterwards in the press conference, I don't know how many of you noticed, but I never called a timeout, not a single timeout.
That was amazing.
The first half, not one in the second half.
That's funny.
I was so confident the guys were playing so well, so hard, so smart, that whatever happened, they would figure it out. And if they didn't, I had plenty of timeouts to call at the end of the game. But I didn't need to call them. We ended up winning by 16, and now we're in the Sweet 16.
What's interesting, Coach,
Along with our women's program.
Yeah, that was a great game last night.
At the buzzer.
Yeah.
Did you call that play into Katie Meyer? Say, hey, go low post here and just hoist one up?
I'm feeling that one. We need to give it a good name. What's a good name? Lady Hurricane.
Yeah, that was fantastic. I watched that game, and it looked like it was slipping away. You experienced a little bit of that towards the end of the regular season, big leads evaporating, and this one looked like it was somehow destined to go towards the home team. But Indiana, I mean, this was like the third-ranked team in the country.
That was at Bloomington.
Yep.
Yes.
The University of Indiana's home court. You're playing a road game in front of a hostile crowd. So
They left the arena crying, which is my favorite. Yeah.
There's a lot to be proud of.
Sure, that was great.
Well, Coach, and what was interesting is, and the announcers, and I give them credit, noticed this during the game. They talked about you versus the Drake game, in the Drake game versus Drake, switching to a full court press in the middle of the game. The announcer talked about it. Then at halftime, they talked with you about it, or they might have talked with you after the game about it. And you talked about how not only was there for defense, but it was more for offense. Now that you're talking, it makes perfect sense. Did you switch to the full court just to get them out of their heads? Because now that they're focusing on the full court press, they're not focusing on every last shot.
Yeah, because what you do is shooting is a mental thing. If you have confidence, you're shooting the ball well. If you start questioning yourself, you miss a shot, or you think you got fouled, you're in your own head. The full court pressure and the traps and everything, but to get us focused on defense, because defense can really lead to great offense, and that's what happened in the Drake game.
Coach Tim Larranaga, the University of Miami basketball head coach, with us here, heading for the Sweet 16, and we'll get into the upcoming matchup they have against Houston. But I want to go back to this Indiana game because, it looked like, obviously your strategy seemed to be, hey, we got to stop this big man down low. And you actually had Omer, was he not fronting or attempting to front? Their main offensive weapon in the early portion, and then that was taken. A tremendous amount of energy just to stay with this kid and put him in a compromising position, and then To be able to also rebound effectively like he was, pretty amazing. What was the strategy there? Did you just want to take that one weapon away and let the rest of the game be decided by the other players on the roster?
Yeah, kind of. So our expression is one man guards the ball and four men help him guard the ball. But in this case, we changed it.
Nice.
We said one man guards the ball and four guys guard Trace Jackson Davis.
Yeah.
So we had Norshad Omier fronting, and then the other guys helping behind. And then when he got in foul trouble, we had AJ Casey doing the same thing, fronting, and we helped him. And then we had Anthony Walker doing it. And then finally, the fourth guy, Jordan Miller. And Jordan did perhaps the best job of keeping the ball out of his hands and frustrating him.
Oh, it was great, and obviously a strategy that worked very well. All right, and then you pull away in the end game. I mean, it was still they come out and hit you with a haymaker, open up the second half. You guys seem to be in control. The lead dwindled down to 5 at halftime, but it seemed like you were outplaying, out hustling Indiana throughout the game, and certainly the kids had their shooting touch in the first half of that game. But they come right out. I think didn't they take the lead? They scored like the first 7. And then it was kind of nip and tuck back and forth. So, what were your thoughts during that part of the ball game, kind of the third quarter, if you will, of the basketball game against Indiana?
You and your listeners might enjoy this. The halftime talk was this. My staff and I were talking about. We had 4 different guys guard Trace Jackson Davis in the first half.
Yeah.
So my coaches and I decided, you know what? Let's just start Jordan Miller on him and help Norshad stay out of foul trouble. That was the first thing. And then we said, hey, they've been ball screening. Maybe in the first half the traps work, but we got to be careful in the second half. If they've made an adjustment against the traps and can get at the ball to Trace Jackson Davis in the high post, we're going to have to make an adjustment and go under the ball screen, not trap the ball screen. So we went out and talked to the team, and I said, listen, strategy is going to be the same, except we're going to make one adjustment. Jordan Miller will start on Trace Jackson Davis. And Norshad Omier says, yeah, we already decided that. I said, wait a minute. What do you mean you guys decided? Did you talk about it? Yeah, coach, we thought it was better if Jordan guarded him and I guarded the other guy, and I just helped Jordan so I could stay out of foul trouble. I said, well, we're all in agreement then.
There's your coach on the floor concept. Yeah.
And then we said, hey, if they start attacking the traps, then we're going to start going under the ball screen. And everybody was in agreement. And that's what happened in the first few minutes of the second half. They made the adjustment of putting Trace Jackson, not Davis, not in the low post, but the high post.
Screens, yeah.
They threw it to him. And so we decided at the first TV timeout, okay, now here's the second adjustment. We're going to go under ball screens and not trap the ball. And then that got us back the lead, and then we never relinquished it.
Yeah, and then eventually seized control completely there, run away and hide by 16. All right, you face a number 1 seed. 2 have already been knocked off in the tournament. By the way, I mean, I don't know. I know you were busy with your own agenda there, but I don't know how much of the other action you've caught, but sensational tournament so far, including, some freakish upsets. I don't know that people would consider this that big of an upset, as the Hurricanes obviously were ranked in the top 15 throughout a lot of the season. Houston, though, was flirting with number 1 for much of the season, back and forth in and out of that position in the top 5. How do you size them up? And, they've shown some vulnerability in their 2 games in the tournament. They haven't been brilliant. So what do you make of the matchup, Coach L?
Well, first of all, Kelvin Sampson and his staff have done an amazing job of rebuilding that Houston basketball program, and they've been terrific, not just this year, but last year and previous years. They've got a great combination of players. Shed, their point guard, and Marcus Sasser, their All-American 2 guard, are just a tremendous backcourt. And our guards will have their hands full with those guys, just like they'll have their hands full with us. And then their small forward. Mark is a really talented, kind of a slasher, Stacey Augman type, left-handed and very good 15-foot jump shooter. Then they have two big guys, Roberts and Walker, are just beasts on the backboards. My coaches have said this, that they're extremely athletic, extremely physical, and very, very strong. So it's not just that they play hard, but they're putting bodies on you. They do something that NBA teams do. You're running out to set a ball screen. Let's say Norshed's running out to set a ball screen. His man will shove him into our dribbler. That's how physical they are.
Wow.
They put their hands on you and shove you and push you around. And when a team does that, it disrupts your offense. You're not going to get a natural ball screen action. So what my coaching staff and I will be meeting this morning at 9:30 for the next few days and trying to put together a game plan that will work against these guys. And I'm sure our players, you don't actually have a lot of time. We did not practice yesterday. We didn't get back until 2:00, and the guys needed to get rest, get to class. We started second semester on Monday. And then today we'll practice at 3:00. It won't be long because, again, we played a game on Friday, a game on Sunday, traveled on Monday. So we'll have a short practice today, a very, very short practice tomorrow, and then we depart to Kansas City, a 3 or 4 hour flight. And then we practice on Thursday a short while and play on Friday. So our preparation for Houston is to rest and recover, try to get the energy level back up, and to have a good offensive game plan against an outstanding defensive team. Their defense is ranked 4th in the country, and their offensive rebounding is 4th in the country. So we know we got to block out and rebound, and we know we're going to have to share the ball to be able to score against these guys.
I don't imagine, Coach, that you were a fan of the old Dean Smith four corners, because one thing that amazes me is the way you guys push the ball up the court after a missed shot by the opposition. I mean, there's no fooling around. You almost look a little like I thought I saw Paul Westhead sitting on the bench there.
Defo, one of the things that I've done throughout my coaching career, and of course my assistant coaches have really implemented our philosophy, is I believe that basketball is a track meet, and the idea is try to outrun the opponent and score before their defense gets set. It's much harder scoring on a team when they have all 5 guys back.
Sure.
It just is. But if you can get them when it's 1-on-1, 2-on-1, 3-on-2, 4-on-3, 5-on-4, where you have even a one-man advantage, take advantage of that. So like Nigel Pack, someone asked me, man, he came down a fast break and launched a 3. I said, yeah, it was a great shot. But he normally makes those. Those are very hard to guard. He's a great shooter. Isaiah Long went 1-on-1 in the open court. Yeah, because he's really hard to guard in the open court. You have to have the tremendous confidence in your players to make good decisions. And the great Bob Rotella, Dr. Rotella, the great sports psychologist, tells me, train then trust. Train them in practice to play the way you want, and then trust them to do the right things that they believe in the system. And that's what we've done. And our players believe in the coaches. They believe in our philosophy, and they're great at executing our game plan. And they showed that against Indiana.
It all sounds sweet, Coach, and congratulations. We always appreciate having a chance to talk with you and having you share your thoughts here on the game. And we'll wish you all the best of luck going to Kansas City, and looking forward to the Hurricanes coming right back and making the Elite Eight. Thanks so much for being with us. It's always a pleasure.
My pleasure, guys.
Thanks, Coach. Appreciate it.
Thanks so much, Coach Jim Larranaga. Wow, that was very illuminating, was it not?
That was great.
Both of these guys were strong today. Dusty May, Jim Larranaga. That was fantastic, Lubie.
That was great.
That was an easy show to conduct.
I hope one of them makes it to the Final Four. That would be super.
Oh, wow. I mean, what are the chances of that? I mean, in reality, Houston, he mentioned, was a kid's name Trayvon Mark. Is that the guy on Houston that, I believe that's the kid that he mentioned. He had a monster performance because Sasser and Shed were, not necessarily on their best game in this last game that Houston played. I forget who they were going against, but they were struggling a little bit. And this kid, I think his name is Trayvon Mark, and he was great. He's going to be a tough guy to stop. So has a lot of moves around the basket and gets off his shots from short to mid range in a very fluid fashion. It's kind of like a Jimmy Buckets. He just finds a way to score. Although a better shooter, I mean, pure shooter than Jimmy Butler would be, I guess. If you're taking a college standard versus what we see from Butler in the pros, he can't shoot. But he's not like when you look at Jimmy Butler shooting a jumper, it doesn't look like
No, it's not perfect.
like you're watching John Paxson, going up for a three.
No,
Or some guy, or Reggie Miller with even his weird form but consistent form, where you're saying, "Wow, that guy's a shooter." Or Tyler Hero. I mean, you can tell him. Devin Booker. Did I mention Booker?
There you go.
Sorry, Lubie. We didn't get to Grant Long about the whole Durant thing either. I mean, are the Suns the forgotten team in the West because they're going to get Durant back? And we know this about Durant, even though he'll probably get injured again, unfortunately, before they make it to the finals. When he comes back, it doesn't matter. It's like O'Meara.
Hey, it's good right away, but he's got to hang out there. He literally got hurt within like 3 games.
Yeah. Jim liked that O'Miracle headline. On St. Patty's Day, would that not have been appropriate? Come on. Where are the headline writers at the Herald and the Sun?
He was supposedly not going to play to going and having a double-double and dominating.
Andy says Justice Winslow had a nice-looking jumper.
No,
he really had one that had brick written all over it, did he not? I mean, he just had that. Wasn't he a lefty? And he just shoveled that thing, like straight up with the bent. The elbow was like Joe Morgan was shooting the ball. Just flapping. We said that about Lonzo Ball, man. When you have the flapping elbow, it's almost impossible. Although, remember, Ron Rothstein kind of corrected us on that.
Well, he worked on it.
That you could reel in the flapping elbow. But he's a non-entity now. He's going to need another knee surgery, apparently. What happened to this guy's knee?
He's just hurt all the time. And that's the thing with Durant. Like, when you're a bigger dude, and he's actually a big guard. He's like 6'9", 6'8", and you fuck with the legs. That's the thing with, like, everyone, well, Durant will be back. Yeah, and he'll get hurt again. Like it's consistent, either his ankles or his knees. Like at this point in his career, he's in his early 30s. It's just different. Like these guys, hard to maintain your health when you're a big dude and you mess with your back and your legs.
All right. Well, tomorrow on the program, we're gonna have Tony Segreto.
We will.
Believe it or not, Lubie, I'm gonna have to bail out at about 8:30. Is that okay with you? You can carry it the rest of the way with Tony Segreto, and I'm gonna have to scratch on the Mike Mayo lunchbox because I didn't realize that tomorrow was the day, and I have to be at the location where the buses are leaving at 9:00, and the Pompano Municipal Tennis Center is taking 2 buses of people to the Miami Open. So for me, that's going to be a pleasure, though, because I'm hoping beyond hope. I mean, what are the chances? Now, it'd be an early round match if he was playing that Carlos Alcaraz will be at center court for a match during the day. No, they would have him at night, wouldn't they? Alcaraz is not playing a afternoon match on a side court at the Miami Open. Are you kidding me?
I don't know. We saw Federer.
So entertaining. What's that?
We went during the day and we saw Federer and we saw Serena and Venus.
That's right. We did, Lubie.
I do night up early. Like early, I think you see everyone. Like we watched Federer play in the middle of the day. And he was Federer. Like,
remember that they wheeled in Federer and Serena and some other superstar.
Venus.
Oh, Venus also.
I said she sucked, and she ended up, I think, playing in the finals versus.
Yeah. She then made the finals of 3 Grand Slams after that. That was great. With your tennis handicapping, you can bet your brains out on this stuff. I don't know. The odds on a lot of these matches would be prohibitive, but some of the most exciting players I think ever, are on the scene right now. Now we always see, games kind of gravitate towards, more power and speed. I mean, that's just the nature of athletics, right? I mean, you go back. It's funny if you watch that Bobby Riggs, Billie Jean King matchup.
The way they played tennis was a joke.
Oh my God! I mean, even if you watch some Chris Everett and Navratilova stuff, where Navratilova was supposed to be this aggressive animal that was, coming forward all the time and pressuring the opposition, and Chris is just there. Okay, no problem.
Yeah, the way they played, men and women, it was like, Are they practicing?
I mean, I'm watching Alcaraz Medvedev, the final at Indian Wells, which was the tournament that precedes this one out in Palm Springs, California. Very prestigious. I mean, up there with the Miami Open, I guess. They're both at kind of an equal level, just beneath the Grand Slams. And always draw a very good field. Usually the top players are all in there. The Joker's not in this one, nor is Nadal. Joker with the vaccination thing again, and Nadal is injured and appears to be, very much at the tail end of his brilliant career. So I don't know how much more Nadal we're going to see. I would imagine he'll gear himself up for the French Open, and that'll be that. But we'll see what happens with that. But still, I mean, you go out there, it's magnificent, right? So many great players. The Sabalenka-Rybakina final on the women's side was a power fest. I mean, they're just blasting shots, Libby. So looking forward to that. So I'll be doing that tomorrow, but I'll be with you till about 8:30 if that's okay.
Sure.
And I'm going to probably have to pass on the matzo ball soup at Grandpa's on the Mike Mayo Lunchbox show, which I always enjoy, even though it's a bit of a schlep. Some of these places, man, they're just that good, right? Would you agree, Lubie? Bit of a schlep, but the food is so good.
Once we're there, I enjoy it. But yes, the driving around all of South Florida to end up in the Dania Beach area almost every time is a lot. But the places are amazing, so it ends up, I get.
And the people are cool. That helps make it. And we will be at the Delaware Delaware Chicken Farm and Seafood Market. Let me get that right, man.
You'll be there Thursday.
Doug and the people there, they do a great job.
Yeah,
I don't know how they top what happened out there last time, Lubie, with the stone crabs.
Well, you're not going to enjoy it because they're going to do Passover and Easter food. So I don't think
I saw a bunch of Passover stuff. I was in the store last night buying a can of Progresso soup, which I had for dinner, and it was great. Tomato basil, which I spike it up a little bit with a couple of things, and it really comes out great. And I happen to wheel by the Passover section. Jars of gefilte fish.
Yeah, it's not the most scintillating food.
It's disgusting. What are you talking about, Ruby?
Now,
the fresh stuff may be different. I don't know. Mayo has a taste for this sort of thing.
I don't know. My wife loves it. My wife, who has a very wide open palate, loves both matzo balls,
chopped liver, and all of that. I'm not into it. I don't know. The pickled herring. My mother used to eat all of this stuff because she's from the old school, old country, man, and I just go, Ma, how could you eat that, man? That is disgusting, man. Unbelievable. The whitefish, man, you see it in the, oh my God.
And they will do crab cakes, and I'm sure they'll bring out some other things to make sure that we're not all full Passover mode.
But I hope they're not insulted if I don't try the fresh gefilte fish they made, because, it would be like me eating an anchovy. I know it's going to disgust me. Just the thought of it.
I'm in the middle.
It's probably great. I'm sure they make a great one. Mayo will be bragging about it, and rightfully so, because he likes that sort of thing. But I don't. I just don't.
I'm not a fan of either, both matzo balls and gefilte fish. But they're not. I've gotten over it as I've gotten older. They're not bad, and they're actually painstaking. So
Passover brisket, right, is a big thing, isn't it? Passover
brisket. I think my mom makes chicken brisket, turkey,
and I could eat all the soup with the carrots and the celery. That's all great stuff. The brisket's good. I don't know. The gefilte fish, pass on that every time. How do I not eat it and not have them notice?
I'll eat it. I'll find a way to.
I'll eat it. Just make sure you don't carve me out a piece. All right.
I'll make sure there's no Defo, matzo ball, or gefilte fish.
And then Friday we're back at the track, so that'll be good. So and Mayo returns today at 12 o'clock.
12 o'clock right here.
Yeah. Always good to talk food. I don't know. Did he go for the Italian fisherman pizza at Jimmy Johnson's?
He didn't say anything about Jimmy Johnson, so I feel like he did not go there, which is a stupid.
It didn't seem like he probably would have sent a picture. No.
100% would have sent a picture, and you would have had either a positive or a negative critique, because he doesn't.
I don't see how you can have a negative critique of that and call yourself a legit food critic.
He just didn't send anything, so I presume he did not go there, because he's very one to send the random picture. He sent something out. What is it? Not key lime pie. It was a key lime pie.
Yeah, a key lime pie with one bite taken out of it. It made it seem like he wasn't going to eat the rest, which we know is bullshit.
Definitely ate the whole thing.
Yeah,
he didn't say where it was from, so I was like, okay, I don't know what this is supposed to mean.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Maybe he had the Italian fisherman pizza and a slice of key lime pie at Jimmy J's.
I hope
that'd be great, man. We couldn't recommend it any more highly. I would have liked to have seen him eat the Italian fisherman pizza in the car. That would have been.
That's like a big.
Because you can eat pizza in the car while driving, right? That dining while driving show, I think, has some legs.
We will start it, and we will do it, and you will be tested. Cheese pizza is pretty much like if it's a heavily topping to pizza. It's
A New
really
York
hard.
slice, though, I mean, the greasy cheese dripping slice is not easy to eat in a car without. I'm talking about without doing any damage to your clothing.
That's the thing. Yes.
Like if you're wearing your favorite shirt, you'll never wear it again. After that, pizza. By the way, the last dollar slice went up in smoke. Libby.
There was actually somewhere that had a dollar slice.
Yeah, in New York City, there was still a place at a dollar
New
slice.
York had
They,
somewhere.
they had to jack it to $1.50. Okay,
How
so
big is a slice?
it's a sad day. It's a sad day in food history.
That's
All right, we'll see you guys 12 o'clock. Mike Mayo's Lunchbox. Mayo returns from the Keys. I would imagine he has some reviews. I like a lot of restaurants in the Keys, don't you?
I
Fish House in Key Largo, I think, is excellent. I used to, I mean, I really enjoyed the first time. I don't know. I don't think they're the same, but the Isla Morada Fish Company in Isla Morada versus the one that's here by, what is that? The hunting place. And the name escapes me. Outdoor World.
Okay. Oh, outdoor. Okay.
Yeah, where you need like a shotgun, racked in the back of your truck. Otherwise, you can't get in. It's like not having a pass to get into Costco. And they have one there, but a lot of people complain about that place. But I had some of the tastiest fish I've ever had there years ago at the original Isla Morada Fish Company in Isla Morada. That's a good spot, but that's just one of many spots. A lot of people like the Mad Dogs restaurant. I don't know what involvement the Managed family still has with that. Ziggy and Mad Dogs, which he took over like an old fabled steakhouse there, and supposedly it gets rave reviews. It really does. And what is that? Marker 84, another one down there that's a classic old. I mean, that would be maybe the Tropical Acres of the Keys. Marker 84. I don't know if you've ever eaten there, but it's classic old place, man. Great spot. All right, we'll see you guys 12 o'clock. We'll find out what Mayo had in the Keys. Mike Mayo on Mike Mayo's Lunchbox. And thanks to everybody who joined us on the show today. Grant Long, it was great. Dusty May, Jim Larranaga, brilliant. And it was great being with you. We'll see you next time as we're leaving out that.
The time.
How do we get into Passover food, man? Just kill like 5 minutes of overtime here. It's 9:06, Libby.
Let's go to eat a damn snack.
Look what they done to my soul.